Chapter 561. Yiqing Luo swept a glance at the Yuqi family's guards as her lips curled slightly, revealing a sliver of ridicule. I've seen a lot of idiots, but I've never seen anyone as stupid as you. Patriarch Yuqi, there are so many of you threatening me. What if I get scared and accidentally injure young Master Yuqi? You can't blame me for that. The moment Patriarch Yuqi heard this, his entire heart was suspended in his throat. He couldn't figure out Yiqing Luo's route, but at least till now, everything that had happened had exceeded their expectations. If Yiqing Luo really used some carelessness or slippery hands as an excuse to claim Yuqi Peng's life, then his Yuqi family would really become a joke. Although his eldest son's right hand was destroyed and he was already half a cripple, he was still able to control himself. But after all, he was the son that she had raised with great care. How could she not have feelings for him? Now that his son's life was in someone else's hands, Patriarch Yuqi wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking, no matter how capable he was. However, the Yuqi family's reputation could not be tarnished. The master of the Yuqi family suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to make his voice as gentle as possible. "Seventh Miss Yi, this time, we are here to resolve our conflict. If you have anything to say, let go of my son first and we can sit down and talk." His words were spoken very carefully, and he put on a look of worry and helplessness for his son. At the very least, they had to make the surrounding crowd think that the Yuqi family wasn't afraid of trouble, but that they had no choice but to compromise for the sake of their son. The head of the Yuqi family was filled with rage. In his imagination, the person who should be begging for mercy should be Yiqing Luo. However, he was surrounded by thousands of guards. The other party only sent out Yiqing Luo alone and he was helpless. Patriarch Yuqi had lived for most of his life, but this was the first time he had encountered something like this. Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing when she heard that. That pair of long and narrow eyes were extremely enchanting, but there was also a trace of mockery and scheming. Only now did she know how to speak nicely. Just now, who was the one who was so aggressive and said that she was a heinous woman with a venomous heart? It was simply too funny. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Yuqi family's patriarch as she lifted Yuqi Peng's lapel as her lips curled into a chilly smile, staring straight at Yuqi Peng. What kind of deal did Yuqi Peng make with the dark forces? Thinking back to the massacre in the marketplace, and looking at now, Yuqi Ye and Duke Jing flatly denied the matter regarding the dark forces. How could Yiqing Luo not understand? It was obvious that the dark forces wanted to completely seal off their appearance. This also meant that the dark forces were not strong enough to appear in front of everyone yet. They still had to hide in the dark and slowly expand their forces. Now, the news of the dark forces had already spread to the Yuqi family from Yuqi Peng's mouth. Naturally, the other aristocratic families had also heard about the dark forces devouring souls. If the underworld forces wanted to disassociate themselves from this matter, then they would have to start with Yuqi Peng. Otherwise, based on the sinister and vicious dark forces, Yuqi Peng and Duke Jing would absolutely not be able to survive till now. When Yuqi Peng heard her question, his pale face went blank as he immediately shouted out at the top of his lungs, "You're still trying to lie to me." What dark forces? The dark forces had long made the upper realms people to expel the Nirvana realm. You're still trying to use the dark forces as an excuse to kill me. Chapter 562. Yuqi Peng was stunned, his face was livid, but he was not willing to say a single word. He would rather die than speak. This was Yuqi Peng's attitude. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Looked like if Yuqi Peng mentioned about the dark forces, he might have to bear a consequence which was even more terrifying than death. At the very least, the Yuqi family would be buried with him. The dark forces did not make a deal with Yuqi Peng but threatened him. "I've never seen any dark forces, and I don't know what you're talking about." "What dark forces? What soul being devoured?" All of this is just an excuse for you to take revenge on the Yuchi family. You deliberately used the dark forces that had long been banished from the upper realm as an excuse to chop off my hand and destroy the Yuchi family. Yuchi Peng bit his lips tightly as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, giving a heart-wrenching howl. Those who didn't know what was going on would most likely believe it to be true. For example, the Yuchi guards who didn't know what was going on. From what they saw, Yiqing Luo was taking revenge on their eldest young master, which was simply too abominable. After all, they had only heard about the Dark Coalition from their seniors. They were the aliens that had been banished from the Nirvana realm. How could the dark forces appear again? No one believed it. Facing Yuchi Peng's attitude, Yiqing Luo instantly sneered, "Good, very good. Since you insist that I want to take revenge, cut off your hand, and bear this infamy for no reason, then I might as well make it true in front of everyone. I'll accept your hand." His voice had just fallen when a red light suddenly appeared and headed straight for one of Yuchi Peng's hands. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's heart was as calm as water. At first, they heard Yuchi Peng's nonsense and the Yuchi clan's overbearing attitude. Deep in her heart, she was still somewhat angry. With such a great injustice pinned on her head, no one would feel good about it. But Yiqing Luo instantly calmed down. It doesn't matter if she was wronged or if she was being scolded, since Yuchi Peng had the guts to bring people over to cause trouble, then she would have the ability to cripple him. In this way, it could be considered as getting rid of a scourge and avoiding a lot of trouble. It was just some infamy. She didn't care what the Yuchi family thought of her. Since it was like this, he might as well directly chop off Yuchi Peng's hand and let him know that people cannot be casually made up. The moment the red light erupted, the Yuchi family's patriarch reacted quickly and wanted to stop it. However, before he could even make a move, Yiqing Luo's penetrative gaze shot right over as her palm wind moved, striking out a burst of palm chi towards Patriarch Yuchi's direction. Patriarch Yuchi did not dare to be careless. This palm of chi clearly did not contain any strong chi. But, just the aura that erupted in an instant was enough to shock him. If Yuchi family's patriarch avoided this palm wind, then he would lose the chance to stop Yiqing Luo from ruining his son's other hand. But if he wanted to stop Yiqing Luo, then he would have to forcefully take on this palm strike. Even if he didn't die, he would at least have a layer of skin peeled off. What Yiqing Luo wanted was this effect. Didn't the patriarch of the Yuchi family want to put on a show of compromising for his son and compromise? He was obviously afraid that the Yuchi family would lose all face, but he had to use such a lofty emotion like family to cover it up. He was simply destroying the word family. Did Patriarch Yuchi really dote on his own son? The so-called doting, was it really not mixed with any benefits? Chapter 563. Yuchi family's patriarch indeed didn't let Yiqing Luo down. Facing the incoming palm wind, Yuchi family's patriarch turned sideways and evaded it. But, Yuchi family's patriarch still had to put up a front. After he evaded it sideways, he speedily flew towards Yuchi Peng's direction. But, how could he make it in time? Oh no! Yuchi Peng realized this situation and his heart instantly turned into ashes. He was still hoping that his father would lend a helping hand, but now it looked like he was dead meat. If he was still the proud son of heaven, perhaps his father might not fear the danger to save him. But now, he had lost his worth. How could his father possibly hurt himself just to save him? Yuchi Peng's heart was trembling. Why did he offend this woman? Yuchi Peng looked at Yiqing Luo in despair, as he was terrified momentarily. He couldn't struggle. He could only watch as the profound chi in Yiqing Luo's hand moved directly towards his left wrist. He couldn't help but let out a miserable shriek. But at this critical moment, a burst of profound chi directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes but didn't counterattack, nor did she evade. Because this burst of profound chi, Yiqing Luo didn't sense any malicious intent, and was even vaguely familiar. But this burst of profound qi came too suddenly. If it wasn't for the fact that she had detected the source of this profound qi and intentionally diverted the profound qi's energy towards Yu Qipeng, that person who came forward to obstruct her would probably have to pay a price. Not to the extent of serious injury, but skin injuries were inevitable. Qing Luo, show some mercy. From afar, a clear voice was heard and a blue figure was approaching from afar. And behind that figure, another figure followed closely. In a blink of an eye, the two of them had already stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. Zifan, Zifei. Why are you guys here? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in astonishment as she stared at the extraordinarily handsome face in front of her. These two people were none other than the Mu family's two brothers, Mu Zifan and Mu Zifei. Ever since Yiqing Luo entered Heavenly Academy, she hadn't seen these two people. These two people seemed to be high profound class students. But in the academy, Yiqing Luo had never seen them before. The Mu brothers were burning with anxiety at this time. The news of the Yuqi family surrounding a new mercenary group with their guards had already spread throughout Three Springs City. The two brothers were arranging the medicinal herbs in the pristine elixir medicine hall when they heard the customers who came to purchase the medicinal herbs mention that the vice leader of the mercenary group was Yiqing Luo. When the two of them heard this, they immediately rushed over. As expected, he saw Yiqing Luo. Back then, he had collaborated with Yiqing Luo to teach Yuqi Yo lesson. That was because he had an honorable reason to make sure that the Yuqi family would not have any chance of revenge. But, if Yiqing Luo were to make a move now and destroy Yu Qipeng's other hand, then she would really form an enmity with the Yuqi family. Mu brothers didn't deny that Yiqing Luo's ability was indeed very strong. She wasn't afraid of the Yuqi family, but that was only because she wasn't afraid of them. Yiqing Luo's current foundation wasn't stable, and if she really made a move today, destroying Yu Qipeng's left hand, not to mention chopping off Yu Qipeng's right hand, was it to prevent Yu Qipeng from being devoured by the dark forces? Even if it was, the death of this left hand, the Yuqi family would probably not let it go. Then, the Yuqi family had no way to deal with Yiqing Luo, so they would start with the people around Yiqing Luo. The first to bear the brunt was the World Mercenary Group. Especially the youngsters in the mercenary group, some of them weren't even a match for the Yuqi family's guards. Chapter 564. Yiqing Luo, let's talk this out, there must be a misunderstanding somewhere. Mu Zifan's brows creased tightly as he suppressed his voice to persuade her. Whoever knew that before Yiqing Luo could open her mouth, Yuqi family's patriarch angrily opened his mouth. Mu family's two young masters, today's matter has nothing to do with you, please move aside. He clenched his fists tightly as his face was filled with anger. That pair of dignified and sinister eyes were burning with raging flames. Earlier from Yiqing Luo's action, how would the cunning Yuqi family's patriarch not understand her motive? This woman was simply hateful. If it wasn't for the timely appearance of the Mu brothers, his old face would have been thrown away. If he didn't tear this woman into pieces today, how would he be able to take this lying down? Yiqing Luo. You once destroyed my fourth son without any explanation. Now, you want to destroy my eldest son as well. You want to destroy the entire Yuqi family. His eyes were chilly as his tone was filled with grief and interrogation. Are you trying to destroy the four great families one by one? While speaking, Yuqi family's patriarch intentionally casted a sidelong glance at the Mu brothers, as though to remind them that Yiqing Luo had ill intentions. When this hat was pinned, Yiqing Luo laughed out loud. No wonder he was one of the four great families' patriarch, his reaction was just so fast. Not long after, he had already thought of a reason to retaliate. In just a few words, he had pushed Yiqing Luo to the heart of the struggle. Destroy the four great families one by one. If these words were to be spread to the other three families. No matter if Yiqing Luo had such intentions, probably. Yiqing Luo would be harassed by the other three families in the West Continent. They would rather kill wrongly than let her off. This was the principle of those who held high positions. Yuqi family's patriarch saw that the situation was completely under his control. Yiqing Luo couldn't even say a single word of resistance. He gave a cold laugh as his eyes were filled with disdain. A young lady was indeed a young lady. But after making things sound so serious, she lost her guts. Now was the time for him to regain Yuqi family's face. With this thought in mind, Yuqi family's patriarch's face was filled with rage. I want to take revenge for my son. The corners of the Mu brothers' mouths twitched when they heard this. They were extremely speechless towards the patriarch of the Yuqi family. Don't talk about avenging your fourth young master. This eldest young master was still in Yiqing Luo's hands. Revenge? Hee, I'll have to pay with another life. Although the Mu brothers were filled with disdain towards the Yuqi patriarch, it was clear that it was not appropriate for them to continue arguing in this manner given the current situation. Mu Zifan's lips curled into a warm smile. He slightly waved the folding fan in his hand and took a step forward. Patriarch Yuqi, Qing Luo, and I are considered as close friends, and based on my understanding, she would not do such a despicable thing. His voice was light and slow, yet it carried an irresistible dignity. There must be a misunderstanding here. However, today's situation is not suitable for us to sit down and discuss in detail. Why don't we both take a step back and resolve this misunderstanding another day? What do you think, Patriarch Yuqi? The Yuqi patriarch's expression changed. He was the patriarch of the Yuqi family. Just because of a junior's words, he was going to shrink back. Whereas Yiqing Luo had no intention to compromise. Her lips curled into a cold arc with a smile which didn't look like a smile. That feather fan on her fingertip seemed as though it could slice Yuqi Peng's neck any time. Chapter 565. Mu Zifan's lips curled upwards as he maintained his elegant smile. But that pair of clear eyes shot out a piercingly cold glint. Just one look at it made one's scalp go numb. Mu Zifan coldly reminded, Yuqi family's patriarch, you can choose not to give me, Mu Zifan face, but based on my Alchemist Guild's future chief identity, how about I guarantee this matter? Following that, he fished out a palm-sized golden token from his waist. Wasn't this the Alchemist Guild's young chief's token? The surrounding guards immediately went into an uproar as they subconsciously took a step back. Alchemist Guild. That was the target which all the large families and powerhouses wanted to curry favor with. Yuqi family's patriarch naturally knew Mu Zifan's identity. But he had not expected that Mu Zifan would use the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help Yiqing Luo time and time again. Could it be that, this Mu Zifan, towards Yiqing Luo? Yuqi family's patriarch restrained the deep thoughts in his eyes as his brows creased tightly. Yiqing Luo gazed at Mu Zifan's back as her heart suddenly felt warm. This was the second time he had used the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help her out of trouble. Yiqing Luo knew that Mu Zifan wasn't the kind of person who liked to bully others. She understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. If she destroyed Yuqi Peng, she and Yuqi family would completely become enemies. And those people who wanted to curry favor with Yuqi family would also form groups to deal with her. Even if they killed her, they would have a dignified reason. Letting Yuqi Peng off wasn't impossible. Seeing Yuqi Peng in this way, he would definitely insist on not saying anything about the dark forces. But if she let him off just like that, then Yuqi Peng wouldn't be able to live past today. Of course, all these depended on Yuqi family's patriarch's attitude. Yuqi family's patriarch cared about his face, but she insisted on Yuqi family's patriarch to give her a way out first. If Yuchi family's patriarch insisted on making a fuss, then she naturally wouldn't have the patience to continue to tangle with Yuchi family's patriarch. She might as well kidnap Yuchi Ping back to the world group and interrogate him properly about his relationship with the dark forces. Yiqing Luo had never been a kind person, and there was no need for her to do anything just to gain a kind reputation. Moreover, even if she let Yiqing Luo off, she might continue to be reviled. Patriarch Yuchi narrowed his eyes and stared at Mu Zifan for a long time. He could clearly see the coldness in Mu Zifan's eyes. Mu Zifan didn't seem to be joking. Patriarch Yuchi had no choice but to consider the pros and cons involved. After some careful consideration, he finally compromised. "All right, we'll talk about this later for the sake of the young alliance master." After Patriarch Yuchi finished his words, he immediately shot a meaningful look towards Yiqing Luo. Now that he had loosened his mouth, if Yiqing Luo still insisted on not letting go, then it would be a slap on Mu Zifan's face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, looking extremely enchanting, but her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. How boring. Her palm slowly loosened its grip on Yuchi Peng. Her pink lips moved slightly, and at the instant when her feather fan moved away, she laughed softly. "Yuchi Peng, do you think that after you leave this place, you will be able to live past today?" Saying that, she used both her hands to push Yuchi Peng towards Patriarch Yuchi. Several guards immediately went up and supported him. But Yuchi Peng's eyes opened wide as he stared blankly in front, his face filled with terror and astonishment. Who wasn't afraid of death? No one wasn't afraid of death. If he was afraid of death, then he wouldn't have begged Yiqing Luo to save him in the first place. Yuchi Peng understood Yiqing Luo's meaning. If he wanted to survive, then he must choose to stay. Only by staying with Yiqing Luo would he be able to obtain the guarantee of safety. But Chapter 566. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she squinted at Yuchi Peng with interest, but didn't say anything else. It was unknown what the dark forces had threatened Yuchi Peng with, to actually make him not even care about his life. Was he using the entire Yuchi family to threaten him? But, since this was Yuchi Peng's choice, she would not force it. Yiqing Luo retreated back to Dmo Xian's side as her little hand hooked onto his arm. This was an unconscious action on her part. Dmo Xian glanced sideways as he stared at the cold and stunning side profile of the woman beside him, as his eyes overflowed with a doting smile. When the crowd saw this scene, they all had different thoughts. The youths of the mercenary group covered their eyes and face-bombed. These two people really didn't let go of any opportunity to show off. "I owe this dog food." Whereas for the Mu brothers, their eyes revealed an astonished look as they exchanged glances, as though they were guessing the relationship between Yiqing Luo and that man. Mu Zifei tugged at his brother's sleeves and said in a low voice, "Big brother, I told you to make your move earlier, but you didn't listen. Look at you now." Mu Zifan cast a sidelong glance at Dmo Xian and slapped the back of his hand away. His expression was still gentle, but his tone was impatient. "Don't talk nonsense." Looking at Duke Jing, who was standing beside Yuchi Peng, he didn't conceal the jealousy and hatred in his eyes as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. If it wasn't for the fact that Yuchi family's patriarch didn't dare to go against Yiqing Luo, he absolutely would have rushed up right now, pulling that adulterous couple apart. He had obviously taken a fancy to this woman. Now, she actually dared to pull on another man. Moreover, that man's appearance was way too ordinary. Yiqing Luo standing beside that man was simply like a fresh flower inserted into cow dung. Duke Jing opened his mouth and clenched his fists in hatred. The jealousy and hatred in his eyes were unstoppable. This gaze naturally attracted Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's attention. Dmo Xian's lips curled upwards as his eyes shimmered. He intentionally lowered his head and moved closer to Yiqing Luo's ear as he laughed lightly. "How do you feel?" Evil, heart. Every word came out from Yiqing Luo's pink lips. She pursed her lips and turned her face away with a look of disgust. What are you waiting for? Go. Patriarch Yuchi's heart was filled with unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do as he clenched his teeth tightly and spoke to Yiqing Luo in an evil tone. 7th Miss Yi, this patriarch will visit another day. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. That laughter was ethereal and pleasing to the ears. However, in the ears of the Yuchi patriarch, it sounded like a demon mocking his incompetence. Patriarch Yuchi's complexion was stiff. He glanced at Mu Zifan, who was standing at the side, and clenched his teeth. Still, he turned around and left. Originally, under Yuchi Peng's fanfare, he had mobilized a large number of people to look for Yiqing Luo, wanting to take her life to wash away the Yuchi family's black mark. In the end, he was sent away just like that. In the eyes of the onlookers, the Yuchi family's departure seemed dejected and dejected. Looking at the 1,000 guards team, one after another, leaving the vicinity of the huge mansion, the frost on Yiqing Luo's face slowly dissipated. The corners of his mouth also revealed a trace of a sincere smile. Zifan, Zifei, thank you for helping me out. The two Mu brothers shook their heads. This wasn't considered as helping Yiqing Luo out of her predicament. They knew Yiqing Luo's character. If she really wanted to form a feud with the Yuchi family would definitely fall into turmoil. Other than giving Patriarch Yuchi a way out, they were also thinking for their own family's sake. Once the Yuchi family was in turmoil. Chapter 567. Don't stand at the entrance, come in first. Yiqing Luo took a step back, indicating for them to enter the mansion. There were too many commoners crowding around and standing at the entrance. It was as though they were being watched by a monkey show. The World Group's youngsters retreated to the two sides, revealing a path. The Mu brothers didn't act pretentiously as the two of them entered the mansion one after another. The mansion's main door had just closed when Mu Zifan sighed softly. Qing Luo, I know you're not a rash person and I know you're a sentimental person. Today's matter, although I'm not sure what exactly happened, but you shouldn't have clashed with the Yuchi family. Mu Zifan and Yiqing Luo had interacted for a few days, and towards Yiqing Luo's character, he more or less had some understanding. He naturally believed that Yiqing Luo wouldn't make a move on the Yuchi family for no reason. But today's timing wasn't right. You're not afraid of the Yuchi family, but you should more or less consider for the people around you. Mu Zifan's peripheral vision shot a glance at those 10 over youngsters who were following behind. These young faces looked extremely unfamiliar. Apparently they were youngsters who were inexperienced. They saw it very clearly. Earlier when they rushed over, they saw these youngsters standing behind Yiqing Luo. Facing thousands of experienced guards, they were clearly afraid, but the look in their eyes remained firm and determined. None of them retreated because of fear. All of them stood behind Yiqing Luo, becoming her strongest fortress. These people were sincerely comrades with Yiqing Luo. Because of this, Mu Zifan was willing to raise this suggestion to Yiqing Luo. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she went into a slight daze. Her gaze subconsciously fell onto those brothers behind her. She finally understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. Once upon a time, she was alone. No matter where she went, no matter what dangerous mission she took, she was forever alone. She had also developed the habit of doing things alone. Now with these brothers and sisters. From the moment she placed these people in her heart, she had always remembered that she wasn't alone, but a team. Her every action, every word and action, could possibly affect the entire team. If she really chopped off Yuchi Peng's other hand earlier, these youngsters around her would definitely be targeted by the Yuchi family. Thank you for your advice, luckily you stopped me. Yiqing Luo's smile bloomed like a flower. The Mu brothers chuckled and said, if you want to thank us, you can treat us to a meal in the canteen after the academy reopens. No problem. Yiqing Luo nodded without hesitation. Turning around, he changed the topic. Oh right, about Yuqipeng. Follow me to the hall. They talked as they walked, and along the way, the other brothers also dispersed. Too many things had happened today. When they thought of the even more serious mission that awaited them tomorrow, the youths naturally chose to suppress the excitement in their hearts and return to their rooms to rest. The huge mansion suddenly became much quieter. In the lobby. After everyone was seated, Yiqing Luo didn't hold back at all as she told them about how Yuqipeng and Duke Jing had fallen into the Dark Forces trap, and how they had signed the soul contract with the Dark Forces, almost being swallowed up. The Mu brothers looked at each other. Mu Zifei revealed an astonished expression. This is actually true. Dark Forces, the beast that was expelled by the Nirvana realm had actually returned. There must be a reason why the Dark Forces would hide in the dark. Yiqing Luo's expression was grave as she looked at them. The Dark Forces kept on using powerful energy to lure the cultivators to sign the contract with them, and subsequently swallowing the other party's soul. This action is too abnormal. Chapter 568. Indeed, this wasn't normal. Dark Forces. This force had already disappeared for several decades. All along, they were the forces which were expelled by Nirvana realm. He had only occasionally heard about this dark power from the mouth of the previous generation. Today, the dark forces had appeared once again, and in such a manner. Could it be? Were they preparing to make a comeback? You must be careful of the dark forces. That profound energy is indeed powerful, but it ultimately isn't yours. If you lose yourself for a short-term benefit, then you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she kept away the deep thoughts in her eyes as she opened her mouth to remind them. The hearts of the Mu brothers were filled with shock at this moment. Dark forces could make use of this energy to swallow a cultivator's soul. How many cultivators would be hooked? It was simply an unknown number. After all, which cultivator didn't thirst for power? Even they, too, thirsted for power. They couldn't help but feel deeply moved that this Yiqing Luo was still young, but her comprehension was not what most people could achieve. They had to investigate on what motive this dark force which was hiding in the dark had. Moreover, such a matter had happened in the world group today, so they should have something to say within the group. Mu brothers then got up and bade farewell. By the time they sent the Mu brothers out of the mansion, everyone's expressions in the main hall instantly turned grave. Yiqing Luo returned to the chair and sat down as her eyes were deep. From the current situation, Yuqi family will not find any trouble today. But in future, they will definitely not let this matter rest. Everyone nodded. Before Yuqi family's patriarch left, he left behind that sentence. Apparently, he had already bore a grudge against Yiqing Luo. What we need to do is to raise the group's ability. Long Yunjian, who had always been silent, opened his mouth calmly as his azure blue eyes looked at Yiqing Luo quietly. Qiao Jin agreed, we're not afraid of Yuqi family but the others. That might not be the case. Although the world group's youngsters were in devil class and had gone through their training, their profound grade and skills overall standard was considered to be extremely high. But they lacked experience. They lacked actual combat experience. Just like Bei Ming Lianqing, why was he able to advance to profound grade in the process of climbing the iron wire? That was because when he was close to death, his mental state had some comprehension, hence he was able to advance. Just as what Yiqing Luo had said, the only way to become stronger was through continuous battles. Based on the situation of the past 2 days, these youths were still too inexperienced. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's arrival, reminding them, they would probably still lock these students in devil class for secret training. Long Yunjian and Qiao Jin exchanged glances. Suddenly, there was a lofty sentiment that spread out in their hearts. Perhaps, they might even have the confidence to emerge as the champion of the interclass tournament 8 months later. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she muttered to herself for a moment. It was easy to increase one's profound rank and strength. They had been doing this all along. However, raising one's strength was not something that could be done in a day. Some experts were often stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance for years or even decades. Not to mention these youths who had yet to completely open their hearts. Tomorrow was the last day of the holiday. It seemed that she had to lead these people to the magical beast forest. The magical beast forest was a place where magical beasts roamed freely. The last time she followed Dmo Xian, she reached the 6th level. This time, her goal was the 5th level. The 5th level, it wasn't just magical beasts. Chapter 569. Why don't everyone rest early to conserve your energy? Tomorrow morning, group leader will go to the mercenary group to take on 10 high-leveled missions related to the Magic Beast Forest. What do you think? Magic Beast Forest. That place. These youngsters had never been to that place before. But Yiqing Luo's suggestion, Long Yunzhan didn't say anything, so the others naturally had no objections. Unknowingly, Yiqing Luo had already unknowingly become their center. Long Yunzhan's eyes flashed slightly as his eyes revealed a glint of admiration. This was indeed a good way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could it help the world group gain more honor points, it could also improve their own training. But whether they could complete the mission would depend on everyone's ability. Subconsciously, Long Yunzhan looked towards Dmo Xian, who was seated beside Yiqing Luo, wanting to see what opinions he had. But he saw Dmo Xian's pair of narrow peach blossom eyes, from the start till the end, had never left Yiqing Luo's side profile. His eyes were filled with gentleness. A gentleness which belonged to Yiqing Luo alone. His slender fingers held a cup of tea as he leisurely drank the tea. He wasn't worried at all, as though he was extremely assured towards Yiqing Luo, and believed in all the suggestions which Yiqing Luo raised. The questions which Long Yunzhan wanted to ask, eventually stopped in his mouth. These 2 days, Dmo Xian's attitude towards Yiqing Luo was the clearest to them. Dmo Xian would never easily obstruct Yiqing Luo's growth and improvement. This kind of free love was enough to prove Dmo Xian's sincerity towards Yiqing Luo. In his mind, Qiao Jin's words suddenly rang, "Ah Zhan, we have a good brother, a very good brother." Long Yunzhan's hands suddenly clenched tightly. The next morning, the group of them were all ready to set off. The youngsters in the world group were exceptionally excited. This was the last day of their holiday, and it was also their first time going on a large-scale mission as a group. Magic Beast Forest. That place which numerous mercenary groups wanted to go on experience training, this was their first time going, so their hearts were filled with anticipation. Magic Beast Forest. Other than mercenary groups going on missions, there were many academies classes, large families, young masters and young ladies etc. who went on various experience training here. Magic Beast Forest's high-leveled missions. Once it's completed, there will be a total of 80 mercenary group credit points, and there will be other medicinal herbs as rewards. Long Yunzhan arranged the mission scroll which he had just received as he spoke. 10 high-level missions for only 80 mercenary group honor points. Thinking about it. A high-level rare mission actually rewarded 150 honor points. As expected, that mission had been categorized incorrectly. Speaking of the reward, Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked at Long Yunzhan. "Yesterday I handed in that high-grade rare mission's reward. I need 2 medicinal herbs." Back then, what attracted her the most was the 2 medicinal herbs. Long Yunzhan took out all the rewards from the metal space and placed them on the table. The sound of 500 gold coins clattering against each other was crisp and clear. The eyes of the youths were about to pop out. Profound ice immortal root, e'en infant grass. I only want these 2 ingredients. Yiqing Luo took the 2 herbs over. The mercenary group's development cannot be without the support of money. Now all the money earned from the missions, temporarily store it. It is very important for the future development. These 2 herbs. Baiming Lu narrowed her eyes as she fiddled with the profound ice immortal root and sniffed it. Isn't this medicine used to treat bone injuries? When the youngsters heard that, they immediately looked towards Yiqing Luo. Chapter 570. Yiqing Luo shook her head, not me. Baiming Lulu picked up another medicinal herb with a bit of confusion in her eyes. These 2 herbs were both medicinal herbs used to treat bone injuries. However, could these 2 medicinal ingredients be used together to refine an elixir? What kind of medicinal pill was being refined? There didn't seem to be such a prescription in his memory. When the refinement is successful, I will write down the prescription for you. Yiqing Luo saw that Baiming Lulu was attracted by the medicinal herbs and knew that she was an alchemy fanatic. When she saw the medicinal herbs and herself not knowing how to refine pills, her interest was piqued. Qiao Jin clapped his hands, indicating for everyone to look at him. All right, everyone, do your best. After completing the mission, the leader will treat you all to a good meal. Tomorrow, you will have to return to the academy. The youths cheered. Ha ha ha, let's go. Let's go. I heard that the training in the magical beast forest is a real training. Of course, that is the realm of actual combat. Why don't we have a competition to see who can hunt more magical beasts and complete more missions? Looking at the youngsters' noisy looks, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with warmth. She really liked this feeling. Everyone was full of vigor and hope for the future. She had to work harder to improve her profound rank and become stronger. At the very least, as the vice captain of these youths, she should protect them well. She smiled. The man behind her also stared at her and smiled. The group of people left the mansion in a mighty manner. Every youth's heart was filled with curiosity and anticipation towards the unknown. However, the group of people did not notice that after they left the mansion, a sneaky figure hiding in the dark was quietly watching them. After sending off the world group with his eyes, that figure muttered softly, "Magical beast forest." Then, he quickly left in the opposite direction of those youths. Shortly after, an old man in a new white robe walked out of the mansion. He stroked his beard, looked at the sneaky figure meaningfully, and shook his head with a smile. It was better to leave the matters of the young to the young. Thus, he did not lend a helping hand. What's more, the little girl didn't seem to need his help. Since he was picked up by the little girl, he would guard this mansion for the little girl. With this thought in mind, the old man leisurely strolled back into the mansion. The youngsters of the world group stopped at the entrance of the magic beast forest. The breeze was chilly, and the ground was covered with withered leaves that had sunk into the soil. There were also countless footprints of horses, magical beasts, and humans. There was a fishy smell in the humid air. As far as the eye could see, apart from the lush forest and trees, there was more lush forest and trees. Dense branches and leaves grew all over the place. Only a faint ray of light could be seen. Just the outer perimeter alone gave off a dangerous aura. The youth's legs were trembling from excitement and excitement. While they were standing at the entrance, there were also neat teams that walked past them. There were 30-man teams, 50-man teams, and 100-man teams among them. He looked majestic and handsome. The youths stared at those teams in a daze. The blood in their hearts was boiling. Exciting. It was too exciting. From now on, they had also become a part of such a handsome team. Are you guys ready? Yiqing Luo's cold voice was filled with an irresistible charm. The youngsters immediately puffed out their chests, as their voices were loud and clear, ready. Chapter 571. Fifth level. The youngsters' hearts suddenly jolted. They thought that they would at most be messing around in the third level. Only then did they realize that the missions that their guild leader had accepted were all missions at the fifth level. They should be laughing and saying that their group leader had thought too highly of them. Or should they be crying and howling that their group leader wanted their lives? However, the mission which their group leader had taken on, their vice group leader was the accomplice, so even if they had to kneel down, they had to complete the mission. Under the leadership of the few of them, the youngsters took their first step forward without any hesitation. They started from the first level and moved upwards. Along the way, Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the front, and when they saw magical beasts, they would give way without any intention to make a move. Whereas for those youngsters behind them, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi, according to their abilities, were split into 10 over groups of 5 to carry out hunting of the magical beasts. Whereas Shi Ju and Little Nine followed behind, picking up the magic cores. First and second level magical beasts, their levels were rather low and their magic cores were few and far between. Just like this, the group of them directly killed their way to the fourth level. The youngsters at this moment were all stained with blood. Some of them, but most of them, were the bloodstains of the magical beasts. And the more they fought, the more courageous they became. From the initial apprehension, to the later part where it was smooth sailing. The 5-man team's coordination became more and more tacit. From the initial frantic killing of magical beasts, to the instantaneous killing of a magical beast. At this moment, they had also deeply understood what Yiqing Luo had said. Only through battle was the only way to become stronger. Fourth-level magical beasts were all intermediate-level magical beasts, with some high-leveled magical beasts mixed in. As compared to the third level and below, their abilities had increased by more than one-fold. The youngsters' battle speed, because of the magical beasts becoming stronger, became slower and slower. Group leader, quickly look. There's another group of mercenary group in front. Suddenly, a loud and clear man's voice was heard from not too far away. Yiqing Luo, Long Yunzhan and the rest stood by the side, carefully observing every youngster's actions, occasionally opening their mouths to give some pointers. Suddenly hearing a stranger's voice, Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a mercenary group popping out from the forest. They were dressed in a blue-colored mercenary group uniform, and the mercenary group badge on their chest indicated that they were a bronze plate mercenary group. Looking at it, it should be a 100-men group. Appearing at the fourth level, and on the same path as them, it should be a high-level mission team heading towards the fifth line. As soon as the man finished speaking, a man with a long blade in his hand crossed the forest. The man's facial features were decent, and his attire was slightly different from the other members. A majestic azure dragon totem was embroidered at the bottom of the man's clothes. From the looks of it, this man's position in this mercenary group was quite high. Guild leader, these people seemed to be heading towards the fifth level as well. When that man heard that, his brows creased slightly as he squinted his eyes and impolitely sized up Yiqing Luo and the others. His gaze swept across the youths who were fighting, and then swept across the 7 people who were chatting leisurely at the side. His eyes were filled with disdain. They are just a bunch of trash who overestimate themselves. There is no need to take them to heart. After saying that, the man who was addressed as the leader snorted and turned around to return to his team. Hearing their leader say this, the other members were relieved. A useless mercenary group could not affect them at all. Since they wouldn't snatch the quest items from them, then they didn't care. Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as her lips curled upwards in ridicule. There were really a lot of arrogant people. Chapter 572. Yiqing Luo didn't put her attention on that mercenary group but swept a glance at the surrounding youngsters who had placed their attention on this side as she spoke out coldly, "Concentrate when you're in battle." Those youngsters immediately retracted their gazes as they continued to kill the magical beasts in front of them. Hearing the lady's clear voice, that blue-robed group leader's footsteps halted. A pair of squinted eyes filled with disdain stared at Yiqing Luo. That imposing manner made even him subconsciously want to straighten his back and listen to orders. What was going on? Noticing the blue-robed group leader's gaze, Yan Xiaoyi's spirited eyes flashed as her eyes revealed a sliver of ridicule. Yo, that trashy mercenary group in front, do you think that just because you're wearing a blue dragon-embroidered uniform, you really think that you're a dragon among men? From what we see you're at most maggots. In Devil class, they had endured being labeled as a trashy class, unable to retaliate. Now that they were outside, they didn't bear the name of Devil class. On what basis did they have to swallow their anger? After all, in the eyes of outsiders, they were people who came out from the imperial palace. Maggots. Saying maggots is an insult to maggots. Qiao Jin's brows rose as his ordinary face was filled with ridicule. When the other youngsters who were killing magical beasts heard that, they immediately burst out laughing. These two people were just too sarcastic. A perfectly fine dragon was said to be worse than maggots. The blue-robed group leader's face turned as black as charcoal. You bunch of trash. We are the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, how dare you insult us? One of the members behind the blue-robed group leader's face flushed red as he pointed at Qiao Jin and bellowed in rage. What maggots? They were obviously the mighty and domineering blue dragon. Yan Xiaoyi gave out an exaggerated laugh and immediately covered her mouth as a pair of bright and beautiful eyes concealed a smile. So the so-called Blue Dragon Mercenary Group is just a bunch of maggots like you. I thought this mercenary group was very powerful, but I didn't expect it to be just so-so. After they had established their mercenary group, they had more or less paid attention to the other mercenary groups. And this Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, according to their understanding, was a large-scale bronze plate mercenary group with 900 over people. Perhaps they had more members, but because they hadn't accumulated enough honor points, they were unable to advance to Silver Plate Mercenary Group, hence there was a maximum number of members. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's backing seemed to be some other continent's family's group. Because of this, he had a bit of a reputation in the mercenary guild. He didn't expect it to be such a brainless team. Yan Xiaoyi's words completely infuriated the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members. Each of them glared at them with a ferocious gaze like that of a wild beast. Not too long later, 100 people surrounded Yiqing Luo and the others in the center. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's group leader Ji Tsangtian wiped the blood off his long sword as his lips curled into a cold smile as he looked at them in disdain. His eyes were filled with rage. However, he still pretended to be magnanimous. Small teams, don't be too arrogant. It wasn't easy for me to reach the 4th level. If I were to provoke someone I shouldn't provoke, it wouldn't be worth it. His words were filled with threat. Yan Xiaoyi's smile was even more exaggerated, and just as she was about to open her mouth, she was stopped by Yiqing Luo. Chapter 573. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members were choked till they couldn't rebuke her. Just as the situation was extremely strange, they heard rustling sounds coming from the other end of the forest. Brother Tsangtian. Accompanied by a crisp sound, a middle-grade wolf beast slowly walked over. On the wolf beast's back, sat a young lady dressed in a pink silk floor-length dress. She had a youthful and beautiful hair tied up as her footwear jingled. Looking at the young lady's dressing, Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Did this fellow come to the magic beast forest for sightseeing or for experience learning? Riding on a magic beast and dressed so heavily, if they met with danger, this set of equipment, would it affect their escape? Young lady's words are wrong. The young lady's slender eyebrows rose as her tone was arrogant. Brother Tsangtian isn't bullying your new mercenary group. But seeing your mercenary group being so disharmonious, he stood on the old mercenary group's standpoint and gave some guidance. While the young lady was speaking, she casted a disdainful glance at Yiqing Luo. It wasn't hard to tell that after she saw Yiqing Luo, her eyes were filled with jealousy. The minute the young lady spoke, Ji Tsangtian's face immediately rose into a smile as he nodded his head. Sister Nuo is right, this group leader is guiding them. That flattering smile on his face didn't attract the young lady Lan Ling Nuo's attention at all. Lan Ling Nuo's pair of watery eyes stared arrogantly at Yiqing Luo. She had always been extremely confident towards her own looks. In this West continent, the most famous beauty was Three Spring City's #1 beauty Yi family's eldest young Miss Yiqing Qian. She had seen her before and she wasn't as beautiful as her. She had not expected. But today she met someone much more beautiful than Yiqing Qian, than her. Lan Ling Nuo's eyes were filled with thick jealousy and unwillingness. Her slender hands under her sleeves clenched into fists. She tried her best to control her tone as she used a gentle tone. The few of you should be your mercenary group's bosses, right? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she naturally saw the young lady's hostility towards her as she felt that it was funny. Lan Ling Nuo continued, as the core members of the team members are doing their best to kill the demonic beasts, but you guys are leisurely chatting and having fun at the side. Your team leader has bosses like you guys, it's really... With that, she didn't continue speaking. She only sneered disdainfully. She didn't need to say anything. Ji Tsangtian instantly laughed out loudly. That's right, that's right. Look at me. I'm fighting with my teammates, killing magical beasts with my brothers. That's what a team is. Immediately after, he looked at Lan Ling Nuo. His flattering manner was like a puppy that had gotten a bone. Sister Nuo, tell me, am I right? Lan Ling Nuo's gaze finally shifted towards him. She then flashed a smile and nodded vigorously. Brother Tsangtian is right. Are they a pair of idiots? The two of them were a perfect match. Arrogant and conceited, he wouldn't even know how he died one day. Lan Ling Nuo's words infuriated the surrounding youths who were killing magical beasts. One of the small team had just finished off the magical beasts in their hands as they raised their weapons and rushed up, pointing at Lan Ling Nuo as they shouted angrily, who said the team leader is leisurely. What's called a team? You don't know anything at all. On what basis are you slandering our team leader? When one of them opened his mouth, the other small teams couldn't help but roared out. These youngsters were still young and had not experienced the affairs of the world. These people could slander them, but slandering the person whom they revered was even more unacceptable than killing them. Enough. Yiqing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotions. Chapter 574. Vice Commander, those youngsters retracted their arrogance under Yiqing Luo's aura. He silently returned to Yiqing Luo's back. Ha ha ha. Look at that bunch of trash, they are indeed trash. A member of the Blue Dragon mercenary group let out a mocking laugh. That's right. Do you think that you're an expert just because you've reached the 4th level? You still want to go against our Blue Dragon mercenary group? Is a small mercenary group qualified? I really don't know what these pieces of trash are doing here. They are as timid as mice. The sounds of ridicule caused the rage that the youths had suppressed with great difficulty to surge up again. This was especially so for Qiao Jin. He held the coin dart in his hand tightly and was about to throw it at those people who were mocking him. But he was stopped by Yiqing Luo. Forget it, we are only at the 4th level, the 5th level magical beasts are more dangerous, don't waste your energy because of these rubbish. The youths were startled, and the anger on their faces dissipated. That's right, their purpose in coming to the magical beast forest was to train and complete the mission. It was not worth it for them to waste their energy on the Blue Dragon mercenary group before they even reached the 5th level. The so-called forbearance was not a sign of weakness. It was because they knew how to judge the situation and make the best choice for themselves. Yiqing Luo's voice wasn't loud, nor was it soft. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group naturally heard it clearly. Trash. How dare she call them trash? Ji Zhangtian's eyes widened in anger as his disgust towards Yiqing Luo deepened. However, Yiqing Luo really brought those youngsters along, as though she totally disregarded them as she walked straight ahead. The youths passed by them one by one. Ji Zhangtian felt a burning pain on his face, as though his pride had been stepped into the mud by the other party. Instantly, a strand of profound energy burst out of his body. He brandished the long sword in his hand, chopping towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her heart suddenly felt warm. He then saw Ji Zhangtian's profound heart jade, which was flickering with orange light. Looking at the star pattern under his feet, it showed his profound rank, Earth Profound Rank 2. Looking at Ji Zhangtian's age, he was at most 25 or 26. He had already reached the second level of the Earth Profound Realm. It was no wonder that he was so arrogant. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself irresolutely. It seemed that she had to raise her profound rank as soon as possible, otherwise she wouldn't be able to catch up with the others. Just relying on his footwork and teleportation was not a long-term solution. When Ji Zhangtian's long saber slashed down, a loud dong was heard as a gold coin dart flew past, hitting the long saber. The strong force forced Ji Zhangtian's long blade to deviate as his arm was so numb that he almost dropped his long blade onto the ground. The moment he made his move, the members of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group were not going to let him off. With a shout, he charged forward. The World Group's youngsters naturally wouldn't allow them to bully them as they raised their weapons to block their attacks. For a moment, the entire fourth line became chaotic. The two teams were entangled together. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she and Dmo Xian moved closer to the fifth level. Yiqing Luo transmitted her voice through the mercenary group badge. All brothers move closer to the fifth level, shake them off. If these people really got involved, it would definitely be a huge problem. It was the last day of holiday and Yiqing Luo didn't want to waste any more time. Unexpectedly, Lonling Nuo, who was riding on the wolf beast, also commanded the wolf beast to move towards this direction at the same time. Lonling Nuo felt that in the chaotic battle, she would inevitably be hurt. She dressed up so exquisitely today, in order to raise the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's looks, not intending to make a move. On seeing Yiqing Luo and a man hiding in this direction, Lonling Nuo naturally followed along. Chapter 575. Ah! Lonling Nuo shrieked in terror. The pain from the fall was a small matter, but if she were to ruin her meticulously dressed up, then the loss would outweigh the gain. But the pain that she imagined didn't come. Her body fell into a warm embrace. That embrace was incomparably wide, and through the thin clothes, she seemed to be able to feel the warmth from the person behind her. A sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Lonling Nuo subconsciously opened her eyes and looked at the person behind her. This glance met with a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes, as though it was a whirlpool, sucking her soul into it completely. The face that entered her eyes was so ordinary and ordinary. But unfortunately, that pair of peach blossom eyes added a unique charm to that ordinary face. Lonling Nuo's heart suddenly started to beat rapidly. Her eyes were filled with shyness as she put on a smile which she thought was the most beautiful as both her hands wrapped around his neck, speaking in a sweet voice, "Little brother, thank." Ah! Lonling Nuo had just opened her mouth when her body suddenly turned light as she fell onto the ground. You! Lonling Nuo stared at Dmo Xian in disbelief, totally unable to believe that there would actually be a man who rejected her. He had obviously caught her, wasn't it to be a hero saving a damsel in distress? He actually pushed her away. Lan Ling Nuo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she could clearly feel that Dmo Xian had let go of her without any hesitation. Following that, he was expressionless as he watched her fall onto the ground with an apathetic gaze. Following that, as though he was infected with germs, he pulled out a handkerchief and wiped his hands. Dmo Xian was moving swiftly, and the minute he let go, due to inertia, Lan Ling Nuo fell onto the ground and was blown by the strong gale as she tumbled. The surrounding was lush and the ground was filled with branches mixed with soil. This tumble caused Lan Ling Nuo's pink soft silk clothes to be ripped open, and finally, with a tearing sound, her sleeves were ripped off from her shoulders and her pink underwear could be seen indistinctly. Her meticulously bundled hair was hooked onto the branches and strands of hair were ripped off as her scalp started to hurt. Sister Nuo. Ji Tsangtian's heart shuddered fiercely as he hurriedly ran up and carried the disheveled Lan Ling Nuo into his arms. When he looked down, he could see the beautiful figure of a woman under the white arm that was exposed after Lan Ling Nuo was torn apart. Ji Tsangtian's throat moved as he forcefully swallowed a mouthful of saliva and removed his outer robe, draping it over Lan Ling Nuo. Bitch. B*TCH. Lan Ling Nuo was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Her battered face was contorted to the extreme. Ji Tsangtian had never seen her in this state, and he was momentarily stunned as the hand which was wrapping her clothes froze. Lan Ling Nuo realized that she had lost her composure and forcefully suppressed the anger and fury in her heart. She pinched herself hard with the hand that was wrapped under the robe. At that moment, Lan Ling Nuo's beautiful eyes oozed out a drop of blood. Instantly, the beauty's tears rolled down her cheeks. Brother Tsangtian. Brother Tsangtian, those choking sounds of sobbing made Ji Tsangtian's heart hurt. Lan Ling Nuo cried and cried as she pounced into Ji Tsangtian's arms, calling out in an extremely aggrieved manner. She didn't say a single word as she kept calling out Ji Tsangtian's name. Ji Tsangtian's body tensed up as his hands slowly landed on Lan Ling Nuo's petite body after some time. This was the woman whom he loved, the woman whom he had chased for a long time but had not managed to get his hands on. Now that she had pounced into his arms, how could he not be agitated? But the woman whom he loved was crying so sadly. Thinking of that mercenary group which made Lan Ling Nuo cry, a layer of ice surfaced on Ji Tsangtian's face. Chapter 576. Yiqing Luo didn't know that she was hated by the Blue Dragon mercenary group. Even if she knew, it didn't matter to her. In her eyes, that kind of conceited group wasn't worth her effort. Yiqing Luo led the world group as she stepped into the 5th level. The minute they entered the 5th level region, the surrounding atmosphere apparently turned heavy. The air seemed to be filled with a damp blood stench. Those youngsters who were originally talking about that mercenary group earlier and talking about that arrogant mercenary group slowly stopped talking under this strange atmosphere. One by one, the youngsters subconsciously puffed out their chests as they vigilantly released their senses. Danger. Everything here was giving off a dangerous vibe. It was different from the relaxed feeling of the 4th level and below. Everywhere here was filled with a sense of oppression. Even their breathing seemed to be cautious. Remember your motive for coming here. Yiqing Luo suppressed her voice as her vision swept past all the youngsters. For those unimportant people or before the mission is completed, don't bother about them. After the mission is completed, I won't stop you however you want to play with them. Towards the Blue Dragon mercenary group, if the world group's youngsters really wanted to make a move, Yiqing Luo wouldn't stop them because she was afraid of trouble. What's more, she hoped that the world group's youngsters would have a battle with the Blue Dragon mercenary group. However, he had to prioritize his priorities before doing anything. If for Blue Dragon mercenary group, they had to sacrifice the world group's youngsters' energy, causing them to be unable to complete the 10 high-leveled missions, then it wasn't worth it. The world mercenary group itself didn't have the advantage in terms of numbers. If they were to sacrifice their manpower here, there was totally no need. The youngsters' eyes lit up. The meaning was, as long as they completed the mission, they would be able to teach the Jitsang Tian a harsh lesson? Facing the youngsters' hopeful gazes, Yiqing Luo chose to ignore them as she intentionally didn't say anything. Following that, she looked at Long Yunzhan, group leader. What's our mission? 10 missions. Long Yunzhan's voice was calm as he said faintly, 7 missions are to kill high-level magical beasts and obtain their magical beast cores, skin and bones. Among them, we need 2 wolf beasts and we need wolf teeth and fur. 3 bear beasts, we need the entire bear beast and not a single part can be missing. There's another one that's more difficult. The Mercenary Union has specifically suggested that I choose carefully, which is to kill 2 goshawks. The youths were all dumbfounded. Their legs froze on the spot, not daring to move. Kill a high-level magical beast. Are you sure you're not joking? It was a wolf beast. Berserk beasts and eagle beasts. Not to mention 7, even if just one high-level magical beast came, they would probably suffer. Furthermore, he wanted to kill the goshawk demonic beast. Oh my god! Do you know what the goshawk is capable of? That was a bird flying in the sky. How could they possibly kill it? The youths gulped nervously. After a long while, they finally found their voices and asked in a trembling voice, what about the other 3 missions? Dig out the herbs at the edge of the gap between the 5th and 6th levels. As soon as this mission was announced, the youths' faces immediately became lifeless. These F*King quests were all deadly quests. Don't look at how easy it was to dig up the medicinal herbs. The key was, it was at the edge between the 5th and 6th lines. That was the place where magical beasts were most likely to appear. Especially in the magical beast forest, all the medicinal herbs were under the control of the magical beasts. If they were to dig the medicinal herbs and attracted the magical beast's attention. Chapter 577. Yiqing Luo's eyes were in deep thoughts as she regrouped all these missions in her mind. Based on the youngsters' abilities, if they were to split into 5 people to deal with high-leveled magical beasts, it was not possible. High-leveled magical beasts as compared to intermediate-leveled magical beasts was not just a difference of 1 level. Why not? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she discussed with Long Yunzhan, group leader, 7 high-leveled magical beasts, it's too dangerous to split them up. Why not we do the same mission together? Splitting them up was not only dangerous, but to the youngsters, it was too strenuous. But 60 over people working together to deal with 1 high-leveled magical beast, as long as there was a good command and coordination, the efficiency would be much higher than splitting them up to hunt the magical beasts. Long Yunzhan nodded, this way, it's beneficial to train everyone's coordination. The youngsters naturally didn't have any opinion on the method which group leader and assistant group leader had discussed. Moreover, working together in a team was indeed safer and it could nurture everyone's rapport. Everyone on the 5th level didn't dare to act like what they did on the 4th level, swaggering in the forest, not fearing the magical beasts at all. Everyone walked extremely carefully. The youngsters with higher perceptive sense and faster speed led the way in front while the 60 over youngsters followed behind. Whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the back of the crowd. The few of them didn't say a single word but carefully sized up these youngsters' expressions, as well as their vigilance and reaction when facing danger. Occasionally, when they saw some rare medicinal herbs, Yiqing Luo and Bei Ming Lu would drop out of the group and quietly harvest them. The duo's coordination wasn't too bad as they didn't cause any disturbances among the magical beasts. In the process of heading towards the mission, they harvested over 10 types of medicinal herbs. Following that, they caught up with the group. The mission to kill 2 wolf beasts was considered as the easiest among the 3 types of magical beasts. But the youngsters expressed the immense pressure. High-leveled wolf beasts were around the size of an adult tiger. Their fangs were sharp and their claws were sharp, especially their speed was extremely fast. Most importantly, wolf beasts were pack animals. They had no way to attract a single wolf beast to one side for hunting. Once one wolf beast was attracted, the rest of the wolf beasts would instantly rush over. By then, if they were surrounded by 10 over high-leveled wolf beasts, it wouldn't be them hunting the wolf beasts, but the wolf beasts would be preying on them. Wolf beasts have their own territory. As long as we lure the high-ranked wolf beasts out of their territory, then we can make our move. The other high-ranked wolf beasts won't be able to rush over. Yiqing Luo recalled that in the books which she had read at Ghost Doctor's place, it had recorded this part of the magic beast forest. Because there were many rare medicinal herbs in the 5th level, the book specifically recorded the method of obtaining medicinal herbs. It was specially marked that the magical beasts of the 5th level all had their own territories. If an alchemist was discovered by a territory's magical beast while picking medicinal herbs, all the magical beasts in the territory would attack. However, if they escaped from the territory of the magical beasts, the pursuing magical beasts would give up on their pursuit. Of course, the beast tide was not an unstable factor. When Long Yunjian heard that, his handsome brows creased slightly as his azure blue eyes revealed some puzzlement, as though he didn't understand how Yiqing Luo knew about the matters regarding the magical beast's territory. When the other youths heard this, they saw Baiming Liancheng's eager expression. Group leader, vice group leader, let me try. The youth's face was filled with excitement and agitation. He did not cower or try to be brave at all. He exuded an aura of confidence. Chapter 578. Baiming Liancheng's skills weren't bad at all. After coming out from Death God Castle, he had consecutively risen by 2 levels and his skills had become even more agile. After obtaining Long Yunjian's permission, he leapt up and burrowed into the bushes. In a blink of an eye, he had already lost track of him. His presence seemed to have disappeared. The youngsters searched for a long time and released their senses. They couldn't sense Baiming Liancheng's presence at all. Yiqing Luo nodded her head satisfactorily. No wonder Baiming Liancheng dared to volunteer himself, so he had this ability. He was able to conceal his presence completely, blending into one with the surrounding environment. Like a chameleon, he was able to conceal himself at all times. Baiming Liancheng hid in the dark as he kept nearing the wolf pack. Not too long later, he saw 10 over wolf beasts gathering by the stream to drink water. This stream flowed down from the 7th level all the way to the 1st level. There were only 2 such streams in the entire magic beast forest for the magic beasts to draw water from. 10 over wolf beasts would raise their heads from time to time as their mouths gave out sharp howls. After howling for a while, they bent over to drink water. Groping around, after about half an incense's time, those 10 over wolf beasts left in a group. Just at this moment, the last wolf beast howled as its entire body was flung out fiercely. That wolf beast, which was the size of a tiger, directly broke a thick and sturdy tree. A woo, waves and waves of wolf howls rang continuously. The wolf pack's sharp eyes looked around as their noses twitched, but they didn't smell anything strange nearby, nor did they smell any dangerous presence. After howling for some time, eventually these wolf beasts all gave up. But that wolf beast which was flung out suddenly opened its eyes as it revealed an ominous glint as its mouth opened wide, revealing its sharp fangs. Its huge fat body slowly got up from the ground. Following that, its gaze stared towards a certain direction in the depths of the forest as its body shot out like an arrow as it charged forward. The pack of wolf beasts behind didn't understand what was going on. By the time they wanted to catch up with their companion's footsteps, they had already lost sight of that wolf beast. Yiqing Luo and the rest stood at their original spots, waiting for Baiming Liancheng. Everyone was curious, what method would Baiming Liancheng use to lure one wolf beast over? At this moment, a figure suddenly sprang out from the bushes. At the same time, Yiqing Luo shouted, "Spread out, surround them." The youngsters in the world group had long developed the habit of moving subconsciously when they heard orders. Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's command, everyone swiftly dispersed, forming an encirclement. A huge wolf beast leaped into their encirclement. What was going on? It really was a wolf beast, a lone wolf beast. "Why are you still in a daze? Attack!" Yiqing Luo's cold voice rang out sharply. Only then did the youths come to their senses. They gripped the weapons in their hands and began to attack the wolf beast. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi commanded while Yiqing Luo retreated to one side. She looked at Baiming Lianqing, who was wiping his sweat. There was still a trace of shock on his face, but when he saw the youths kill that wolf beast together, his eyes were filled with satisfaction. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled slightly as she walked over and lightly patted his shoulder. "Lianqing, you've done well." This encouragement was extremely light, extremely slow, and contained a tinge of gentleness. Baiming Lianqing's body stiffened as the hand which was wiping his sweat squatted on his forehead. He turned his head and met with Yiqing Luo's smiling eyes. Chapter 579. She had to admit that Baiming Lianqing's reaction was fast and he was an intelligent person. After Yiqing Luo got closer to him, she smelled a trace of medicinal herb smell from him. This smell was what she smelled when they passed by the other beast clan's territories. Yiqing Luo roughly guessed the method which Baiming Lianqing used. The wolf beast just now must have been attracted by the smell of the herbs. Yiqing Luo patted his shoulder once again as she revealed a gentle smile. "Go on." Baiming Lianqing's eyes shone slightly as he nodded his head vigorously and immediately dived into the bushes to search for the next wave of wolf pack. This method could only be used once for the same wave of wolf pack. Otherwise, the second time, these magical beasts which had their own consciousness would definitely discover something amiss. Yiqing Luo turned around and looked at the youngsters who were struggling with the wolf beasts. At this moment, she didn't know that her one encouragement made a youngster's inner heart gradually become strong and filled with hope. Using the same method, the youngsters hunted 2 wolf beasts and sliced the corpses according to their body parts, placing them into their space bags in batches. After 2 consecutive wolf beasts, the youngsters were already exhausted. Yiqing Luo had already found an empty space with a huge rock for everyone to rest and replenish their energy. 1 hour later, the youngsters started their journey. The last time Yiqing Luo came here, she had already memorized the rough topography of the magic beast forest in her mind. She directly led the youngsters towards the bear beast's territory. Occasionally, there were several advanced-leveled magical beasts walking around. Yiqing Luo and the others carefully avoided them. It was until they entered the boundary of the bear beast's territory when they stopped in their tracks. Yiqing Luo used the mercenary group badge to transmit her understanding towards the bear beast to the youngsters. Bear beasts were solitary magical beasts and didn't have the awareness of their companions. These bear beasts, when they met their own kind, would not hesitate to attack their own kind. So if they wanted to deal with the bear beast, even if the other bear beasts saw them, they wouldn't help. Of course, there was a possibility that after they killed the bear beast, they would snatch the bear beast's corpse and attack the mercenary group. When the youngsters heard that, their gazes towards the bear beast were filled with battle passion. The body of the advanced bear beast was as tall as a tree that 3 people could carry when it stood up. When it walked, the ground shook continuously. Yiqing Luo saw that everyone was ready and with a command, she directly led the youngsters as they charged towards a bear beast. The bear's attacks were swift and powerful. It clearly looked extremely cumbersome, but its movements were shockingly agile. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, the 60-odd people finally managed to take down a bear beast. Luckily, Yiqing Luo had specially lured the bear beasts to a corner of the bear beast's territory, so it didn't attract the attention of the other bear beasts. The requirement of the mission was that they needed the bear's entire body, not a single part missing. However, if he didn't cut up this huge bear, his spatial pocket wouldn't be able to contain it. Everyone's vision fell onto Yiqing Luo. They remembered that Yiqing Luo had a realm ring in her hands which could store many things without any restrictions. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched helplessly. She had long planned to place the entire bear beast's corpse into the profound phoenix ring. Just as she was about to head up and keep the bear beast into the profound phoenix ring, she heard an exasperated shout behind her, "It's you bunch of trash mercenary group again." As the saying goes, enemies wouldn't meet unless they were enemies. Weren't these people the Blue Dragon mercenary group which they had just met at the 4th level? Chapter 580. Yiqing Luo suddenly had a bad premonition. Blue Dragon mercenary group's mission, surely it couldn't be. A bear beast, right? If this was really the case, then their battle with Blue Dragon mercenary group would probably be brought forward. Indeed, in the next second, she saw Ji Tsangtian leading a group of people as they walked up in quick steps. His vision swept past the bear beast's corpse on the ground as his eyes sparkled with a strange glint. Ji Tsangtian had a different view towards this group. He originally thought that these youngsters were merely gathered together to find some fun. Moreover, looking at them, all of them were obviously frail people without the strength to truss a chicken. Even if they looked handsome and dainty, that didn't change the fact that their cultivations were low. But this group of trash which he looked down on actually managed to kill a bear beast. Ji Tsangtian hadn't even said a word when a group member beside him had already raised his voice as he spoke out sharply, "Trash group, you actually dare to snatch the item required for the mission with Blue Dragon mercenary group. This bear beast belongs to us Blue Dragon mercenary group." Ji Tsangtian frowned and was just about to say something. But on seeing Lan Ling Nuo, who was sitting on the wolf beast's back, he recalled her sad look when she was crying in his arms earlier, so he stopped his mouth. That's right, this was merely a mercenary group formed by a bunch of trash. Since they dared to offend Blue Dragon and dared to make Sister Nuo into such a disheveled state, then they must pay the appropriate price. This bear beast, don't even talk about whether it was the item required for their mission. Even if it wasn't, he, Ji Tsangtian, was determined to get it. Anyway, this kind of matter often happened between mercenary groups. But when that group member's words entered the world group's youngsters' ears, it incited everyone's dissatisfaction. Tong Ziqing's expression was cold as she berated coldly, "This bear beast was obviously killed by us first, so naturally it belongs to us." "You killed it?" The group member sneered, "What evidence do you have to prove that you killed it? Who would believe that? If I say it's killed by us Blue Dragon mercenary group, then this magical beast is our mission item." This was obviously a robber's theory. The world group's youngsters' expressions instantly turned extremely ugly as all of them clenched their fists tightly, wishing that they could rush up and give them a good beating. Damn it! Did they need to be so open about snatching things? Did they need to speak such blatant lies? Shameless to the extreme. Their worldview had been refreshed. They didn't make a move, as they kept observing Yiqing Luo's intentions. They remembered Yiqing Luo's words. Everything had to be prioritized. They had just killed the bear beast and were currently exhausted. If they were to really clash with the Blue Dragon mercenary group now, they would definitely not be able to gain any benefits. But, to let them swallow this grievance, they really could not do it. Yiqing Luo's expression remained calm as her charming eyes stared coldly at Ji Tsangtian, as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. After a while, she blinked her charming eyes, and a soft, almost inaudible laugh escaped from her lips. Ha! Blue Dragon mercenary group. This is my first time seeing such a shameless mercenary group. She lightly tapped her pink lips with her hand, revealing a charming expression. Tilting her head, her eyes curved. But that's true. With a shameless leader, there will naturally be a shameless team. You. Ji Tian's face turned steely green as he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to fire the cannon directly onto him. Chapter 581. The World Group. Ji Tian's expression changed once again. The group which he had always regarded as trash was actually the World Group. Towards the World Group's name, some middle and lower-ranked mercenary groups in the mercenary world had all heard of it. He naturally had heard of the World Group before. Damn it! Why hadn't he thought of it from the start? It was rumored that the World Group's members were formed by a group of 17 to 18-year-old young men and ladies, and all of them were handsome and beautiful. Whereas the World Group's group leader was an outstanding temperament and an ice, cold-looking blue-eyed man. There was also a vice group leader who was an exquisite-looking young lady with enchanting brows and eyes, possessing a peerless beauty. These people in front of them, didn't they fit these rumors? He actually treated the other party as a trash group. Just based on 60 over young youngsters, they accepted a high-grade rare mission and directly rose to a bronze plate mercenary group. It could be seen just how much honor points that high-grade rare mission rewarded. The higher the honor points, the higher the difficulty of that mission, which was totally impossible to complete. But the World Group managed to do it. They broke the Mercenary Association's legend of the #1 mercenary group, which had always been worshipped as a god group, replacing it to become the second legend. Ji Tian's heart started to feel apprehensive. He even felt a little terrified and uneasy as he didn't want to have any more clashes with this group. Qualifications. Just based on you, do you even have the qualifications to talk about qualifications with Brother Tian? Lan Lingnua stared fiercely at Dmo Xian. She remembered that it was this man who threw her out earlier. It was merely because of inertia that she accidentally fell into his arms. As a man, facing a beauty throwing herself into his arms, shouldn't he take the chance to be a hero to save the beauty? She didn't despise him for his ordinary looks and ugly looks, allowing him to touch her beautiful body, and he actually despised her. Since young, Lan Lingnua had never suffered such humiliation before. Brother Tian snatched the magical beast back. Teach them a fierce lesson. Lan Lingnua clenched her fists tightly as she suppressed the malevolent expression on her face, trying her best to put on a coquettish attitude. She wasn't a mercenary group member and didn't understand what the World Group was, nor did she know what glorious deeds were there under the heavens. Moreover, under Ji Tian's daily bragging, Lan Lingnua unanimously agreed that Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was an especially powerful mercenary group. How could these young and small mercenary groups be compared to Blue Dragon Mercenary Group? Ji Tian's original intention to retreat started to hesitate again. Lan Lingnua obviously bore a grudge against the World Group. If he chose to retreat now, wouldn't his sister Noa laugh at him for being useless? He knew better than anyone else how he usually boasted about the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group in front of Lan Lingnua. Otherwise, Lan Lingnua wouldn't have followed them to the magical beast forest. Originally, he wanted to show off his prowess in front of Lan Lingnua and then express his love for her. He had loved Lan Lingnua for such a long time. How could he destroy everything now? No man was willing to let the woman he loved look down on him. Ji Tian clenched his fists tightly as he straightened his back and stood in front of his group members, looking at Yi Qing Luo arrogantly. If you know what's good for you, bring your men and leave this place now, otherwise. Don't blame this group leader for not showing any mercy. That arrogant look, forcing himself to put on a fearless look, made Yi Qing Luo laugh. She had been observing Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and observing Ji Tian. Ji Tian must have heard of the World Group's name. He was also fearful of the World Group. Chapter 582. Even now, although there was no fear on Ji Tian's face, but if one took a closer look at his slightly trembling body, one would still be able to tell. Seeing that the leader had spoken, the member became even more spirited. As if he had found a backer, he shouted again, "Did you hear that? Our guild leader is magnanimous and won't bicker with your trashy team. Get lost right now." Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she didn't even bother to take a look at Ji Tsangtian. She directly bent down as her feather fan touched the bear beast's corpse slightly. A fluorescent light flickered, and the huge bear carcass disappeared in the blink of an eye. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members all opened their eyes wide, as even using their toes to guess that Yiqing Luo must have done something to this bear beast's corpse. This action was obviously provoking them on purpose. "You, how dare you?" That group member was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he pointed at Yiqing Luo and berated, "You even dare to snatch our Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's mission item, don't blame us for bullying you." They spoke righteously, as if they were the ones who had killed the bear beast. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she turned around and walked deeper into the eerie cold. How could the members behind him endure such provocation? This woman in front of him actually dared to look down on him. He wanted her to pay a painful price. That member clenched the weapon in his hand tightly as he directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo turned around with her back facing the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. The surrounding the World Group members were all looking at this scene. Not knowing if they were all silly or what, no one actually reminded Yiqing Luo. As for Yiqing Luo, she didn't seem to know that there was someone sneak attacking her from behind. Lanling Nuo sat on the back of the wolf beast and watched the scene in front of her. A hint of elation flashed past her eyes. It's this kind of team. When their boss is being ambushed, they can only stand by and watch. This is retribution. She was hinting at the 4th level. Yiqing Luo and the rest were leisurely chatting by the side, while the other youngsters were clearing the way around them. When the members of Blue Dragon Mercenary Group heard this, they felt that it made sense. This was retribution. The members of this useless team put themselves in a high and mighty position, ordering their own team members around as they pleased. He deserved to be abandoned by his own team members. Just as Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members thought that Yiqing Luo was dead for sure. The ambushing members suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. With a whoosh, the figure was kicked into the bushes at the side. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was accompanied by the painful wails of the regiment member. It was extremely ear-piercing. What was going on? Ji Tsangtian's gaze subconsciously fell onto Yiqing Luo. However, the slender figure still had her back facing them as she returned to the middle of Long Yun Zhan's group before turning around. At the instant when she turned around to look at him, Ji Tsangtian obviously saw a deep sense of ridicule in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yes, it was mockery. Laughing at his incompetence. Mocking their mercenary group for overestimating themselves. That shameful feeling exploded forth in that instant. Ji Tsangtian was so angry that he was trembling. The current him didn't care if the group in front of him was that famous mercenary group or not. He only knew that he could not let go of anyone who mocked him. Otherwise Blue Dragon Mercenary Group wouldn't have a foothold in the mercenary world. He wanted to kill Yiqing Luo. He wanted to make Yiqing Luo pay a painful price for today's actions. Chapter 583. The other party was just a trashy mercenary group. Why did it feel that? Ji Tsangtian's side had always been on the losing end. Moreover, they were controlled by the other party until they had no way to resist. Earlier, they didn't even see anyone making a move and Lu was sent flying. Lanling Nuo started to suspect if what Ji Tsangtian said was true or not. Suddenly, she started to regret listening to Ji Tsangtian's words, abruptly following him into the magic beast forest. Seeing his beloved woman's suspicious gaze, Ji Tsangtian's pride suffered a serious blow. A gush of nameless fury started burning. He clenched his fists tightly as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, shouting out sharply, "Snatch our bear beast back, let them witness the power of the Blue Dragon mercenary group." Yiqing Luo and the others looked at Ji Tian as though they were looking at a bunch of clowns. Although the youngsters were already very tired. But the thought of being able to teach these arrogant Blue Dragon mercenary group a lesson, all of them were as excited as though they were injected with chicken blood. Motherf asterisk cur. They had wanted to beat them up for a long time alright. If it wasn't for Madame Qing Luo's words, they absolutely would have charged up right now. These youngsters, under Yiqing Luo's influence, all understood one logic. That was battle. The most realistic battle. Which was now, their battle with the Blue Dragon mercenary group. The reason why the Blue Dragon mercenary group was able to walk till now, to become a bronze plate mercenary group, was because the group leader and members' characters were a little conceited. But there was no way to deny that they had absolute ability. To be able to battle with them, they should be able to gain quite a bit of upgrade. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she was about to say something. Suddenly her ears moved slightly as her vision seemed to have touched something. Her eyes suddenly narrowed as she gave a tender shout, "Retreat immediately." Her expression became solemn. Dmo Xian and Long Yunzhan's expressions instantly sunk as their gazes shot towards the direction of that member called Ah Lu at the same time. When those youngsters who were rubbing their palms heard that, they went into a blank as they speedily followed Yiqing Luo's instructions, retreating into the depths of the forest. This action, in the eyes of the Blue Dragon mercenary group's members, was because they were afraid of their ability and wanted to escape. These group members had always been proud and arrogant, and earlier they were humiliated by Yiqing Luo and the others, so why would they let them off? Under Ji Tian's command, the group of them immediately wanted to chase up. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the bushes behind him. It was Lu's voice. Ji Tian and the others stopped in their tracks as they turned their heads over. Only to see a huge, pitch-black object poking its head out from the bushes. When he stood up, he was as tall as a mountain. It was a beast, a pitch-black beast. Its legs stood on the ground, and one of its claws hooked Ah Lu up with only one nail. Ah Lu was already a 25-year-old adult man with a tall and sturdy figure. But compared to the giant beast's fingernails, it seemed so tiny. He was as small as an ant. Without any explanation, the giant beast stuffed the person it was hooking onto into its mouth. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere. Ah Lu didn't even let out a scream before he was chewed up and swallowed into the belly of the giant beast. All the members of the group were scared silly. What kind of monster was this? It actually swallowed a living person just like that. Just as they were in a daze, that giant beast started to move once again as it walked out of the forest. Just one step and it covered a long distance. Chapter 584. Under Yiqing Luo's reminder, the World Group's youngsters retreated to a safe place, avoiding the helpless fate of being trampled to death by the huge beast. Ji Tian swiftly reacted as he pulled Lan Ling Nuo, who was sitting on the mount, into his arms. Following that, he sped towards the World Group's direction. When the other group members saw that, all of them started to rush over in terror. Oh my god! What the hell was this thing? They had been in the Magic Beast Forest for so many years and had never seen this kind of magical beast in the 5th level. When Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members rushed over, the World Group's youngsters were simply cursing in their hearts. They couldn't help but wanted to curse this bunch of shameless people. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she tugged Dmo Xian's sleeve as her pair of charming eyes congealed on that huge beast. She wouldn't easily open her mouth to Dmo Xian. But under this situation, she had to open her mouth. This huge beast was too dangerous. She might be able to use blink movement to avoid this huge beast's attack, but the world group's youngsters were not able to do so. Moreover, unless it was the last resort, she really didn't want to use the blink movement's secret art. Let's not talk about the fact that this secret art was used to save her life. Just the fact that every time she used it, she would be caught red-handed and was even recognized by others. This secret art, if possible, Yiqing Luo would try not to use it. The huge beast's speed was simply too fast. Its one step was equivalent to everyone releasing all their profound qi and sprinting for 10 meters. But in just a few short moments, another 10 over Blue Dragon Group's members died tragically under the huge beast's feet. There were some who were swept by the huge beast's claws and directly thrown into its mouth. The scene was extremely bloody and ferocious. Based on her strength, there was absolutely no way to protect the world group's youngsters. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip tightly as her slender fingers subconsciously clasped Dmo Xian's arm tightly. She was too weak. The bigger the responsibility, the more she felt that she was too weak. After she returned to the academy, she wanted to head to the spiritual Qi treasure land and enter the Azure Dew bracelet to first break through her profound grade-to-earth profound realm. Dmo Xian's palm was warm as it gently covered Yiqing Luo's eyes. His voice was calm without any ripples, but Yiqing Luo could hear his concern. "It's okay, I'm here." Just 4 simple words made Yiqing Luo's heart tremble suddenly. Dmo Xian's palm blocked her vision and it was pitch black. She blinked. Her long, curly eyelashes brushed past his palm like a small brush. Shortly after, the sounds of the youth's heaving sighs of relief could be heard. Yiqing Luo grabbed onto Dmo Xian's palm with both hands, only to see the World Group's youngsters and Blue Dragon Group's members all squeezing over. Although the youths were saying nasty things and ridiculing the group members, they still made way for them to have a place to stand. Not long after, this small piece of flat ground was filled with people. As for the giant beast, it kept raising its foot, trying to step on them. However, the huge foot that was lifted up seemed to be blocked by something and was bounced back. The giant beast's body swayed, and like a collapsing mountain, it fell straight back. Boom boom boom, a deafening sound reverberated along with the entire magic beast forest shaking. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe it as the earth quaking and mountains shaking. It was an enchantment. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes towards the sky and she could faintly see a transparent ray of light, appearing and disappearing indistinctly. When did Dmo Xian conjure the enchantment? Chapter 585. What is that thing? The group members heaved a sigh of relief as their legs were so weak that they couldn't even stand properly. They had all witnessed their own comrades being eaten up by that huge beast, being trampled to death by that huge beast without any chance to resist at all. They didn't know how long this barrier could last for. If there wasn't a barrier, wouldn't they all die under this huge beast's feet? Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she stared at that huge beast which was crawling up, as her eyes narrowed slightly. After some time, she released Dmo Xian's arm. "Let me take a look at the surrounding situation." Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he tried to grab her arm. Even he didn't know where this huge beast came from, so it was too dangerous to leave the barrier rashly. "I'll ride on Little Nine and take a look in mid-air, nothing will happen." Saying that, Yiqing Luo sat on Little Nine's back. One man and one beast left the barrier and flew straight into mid-air. After leaving the barrier, Yiqing Luo then sensed a gust of stinky wild wind blowing continuously. That huge beast had already stood up and once again attacked towards the direction of the barrier. Yiqing Luo gazed afar and saw that not too far behind the huge beast, densely packed magical beasts were surging over. Just like a beast tide, surging forward in an extremely turbulent manner. What the? Forget about a heaven-defying huge beast, there was even a huge wave of magical beasts. They were going to be trapped in the magic beast forest to death. Lass. Suddenly Old Man Song's voice rang in her mind. This is troublesome. Not just troublesome, it was huge trouble. That magical beast. If I didn't recognize wrongly, it should be a 7th level advanced leveled mirage beast. Childine. Old Man Song's tone rose, apparently shocked by this huge beast. Even if it's a Sky Mystic Overlord strong practitioner going against Childine, they would also be at a disadvantage, not to mention you all. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed with shock when she heard that. Her eyes suddenly widened as she stared unbelievably at that huge beast in front of her as her heart thumped. Even a Sky Mystic Overlord is unable to go against it. 7th level. That magic beast forest's legendary level. Till now, no one had ever returned alive after entering the 7th level. How did this Childine run from the 7th level to the 5th level? In the tens of millions of years of history of the magical beast forest, aside from large-scale beast tides, magical beasts would never cross the boundary that belonged to them. Moreover, even if it was a beast tide, it would at most be 1 level higher. This Childine, could it be? Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly sunk as her penetrating eyes reflected a cold glint, her eyes swiftly circling the surroundings. It was simply impossible for a high-level phantom beast of the 7th level to appear on the 5th level. But, if this high-level mirage beast was led here by someone, and the target was them, it was not impossible. Yiqing Luo's vision surveyed the surroundings alertly, as she carefully avoided Childine. Vaguely, Yiqing Luo seemed to have seen a figure among the densely packed magical beasts. When she looked over again, the figure had disappeared without a trace. It was as if it was just an illusion. An illusion. Yiqing Luo frowned as her gaze turned chilly. No, it can't be an illusion. The appearance of these magical beasts and Childine was indeed premeditated. Was it a ploy by the dark forces? To annihilate everyone who knew about the dark forces' comeback. Like how they massacred the marketplace, to destroy the world group. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she patted little Nine. The man and beast returned to the array barrier once again. Chapter 586. Childine. Dmo Xian's expression changed abruptly as that pair of eyes which were filled with brilliance turned biting cold. His brows creased as he looked outside the array barrier at the huge beasts which kept on attacking. It's actually Childine. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her slender hand hooked onto Dmo Xian's arm as she suppressed her voice. There's a huge batch of magical beasts coming over, it seems to be a beast tide. This time round, it would be hard for them to escape from this calamity. Yiqing Luo had always assumed that Dmo Xian's profound grade should be above Sky Mystic, which was Sky Mystic Overlord. Old Man Song said that Sky Mystic Overlord's strong exponents were unable to subdue Childine. Indeed. When Dmo Xian heard that the huge beast was Childine, his brows creased into a bundle as his gaze turned vicious. If Dmo Xian was unable to deal with the huge beast, then her brothers. Yiqing Luo recalled that fleeting figure which disappeared amidst the surging magical beasts earlier. Her gaze suddenly turned gloomy as though it was covered with frost. We've been plotted against. She squeezed out every single word from the slits of her teeth. Dmo Xian responded calmly as he stared at Childine without any change in his expression. Childine is a 7th level high-leveled mirage beast and its ability is unfathomable. Furthermore, this mirage beast's nature is extremely lazy. Even if the magical beast forest had collapsed, it might not leave its own nest. If it wasn't for the fact that someone had used extreme methods to awaken Childine from its nest and was able to lead Childine, who was lazy by nature would not be able to cross the 6th level to attack them at the 5th level. Not too long later, those magical beasts had already dashed to the back of Childine. Instantly, the entire outer boundary of the array barrier was surrounded by densely packed magical beasts. The magical beasts charged at the barrier one after another. After being bounced back, another wave of magical beasts charged at them. When Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members saw this situation, all of them were dazed. The array barrier was transparent, and when these magical beasts charged over, everyone couldn't help but touch their own bodies, feeling that they were about to be trampled by the magical beasts. Their bodies were weak and many of them had already collapsed onto the ground, unable to stand up. "Stay further away from me. Who allowed you to touch my noble body?" Just when everyone was in a state of panic, a woman's sharp and angry rebuke suddenly rang out. Then, he heard a commotion from the side. Some of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members could not stand steadily as they fell to the side. This piece of flat ground was not spacious to begin with. After accommodating more than 100 people, it became extremely crowded. Furthermore, they didn't dare to get too close to Yi Qing Luo and the others, hence, those group members all huddled together. When one of them fell, he bumped into the other. A few other members were squeezed out of the barrier and were instantly torn to shreds by the berserk magical beasts. Everyone was horrified. Once they left the barrier, what awaited them would be nothing left of them. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members didn't dare to move at all. One by one, they glared at the person who had stirred up trouble, Lan Ling Nuo. The current Lan Ling Nuo was sitting on a huge rock and Ji Tsang Tian was surrounding her. Lan Ling Nuo straightened her long robe, her face filled with disgust and disdain. "What are you staring at? If it wasn't for your group leader, would I even be here today? I'm telling you, if you dare to ruin this beautiful face of mine, leaving a scar on my body, my father will absolutely not let you off." The current her didn't have a single bit of delicateness from before. Chapter 587. Blue Dragon Group's members were so infuriated that they were trembling. Group leader had brought Lan Ling Nuo along to complete the mission in the magical beast forest, and that had already made them extremely unhappy. They were a mercenary group and not an escort team. Everyone knew that group leader admired Lan Ling Nuo, hence he had been asking about her well-being along the way, making it seem as though he was an escort team leading a princess on an outing, so they all tolerated it. Of course, a large part of it was because Lan Ling Nuo was indeed beautiful. With such a beautiful and alluring young lady following in the group, chatting and laughing, it was a good scenery. Even if she threw a little tantrum, that would also be called cute. But, no matter how beautiful she was, at this kind of a time where their lives were at stake, who could tolerate her playing with their little tantrums? Because of Lan Ling Nuo's willfulness, she had pushed a few brothers out of the barrier and they were torn into pieces by those magical beasts, yet she didn't feel a single bit of guilt. She even dared to blame them. These group members' hearts were filled with rage and injustice as it instantly gushed into their hearts. Even Ji Tsang Tian's expression turned slightly ugly. If her place was said to be narrow, then the others simply didn't have a single leg to stand on. Considering that Lan Ling Nuo was a lady and Ji Tsang Tian didn't wish for her to be touched by other men, he carefully made his own group members to leave a spot on this huge rock for her. Forget it if Lan Ling Nuo didn't appreciate it, she even pushed the other group members aside. As intelligent as Lan Ling Nuo, how could she possibly not know the current situation? How could she not know that the slightest movement could possibly cause her to be squeezed out of the barrier? Looking at the group members' vengeful gazes towards Lan Ling Nuo, while Lan Ling Nuo had a fearless look as she stared at him arrogantly, Ji Tsang Tian felt mentally tired for no reason. "Brother Tsang Tian, you're the one who coaxed me and brought me here. Don't tell me, you don't want to take responsibility." Lan Ling Nuo raised her teary eyes as she looked at Ji Tsang Tian pitifully. That look in her voice was filled with grievance, as though Ji Tsang Tian had done something to her. After all, she was the lady whom he had admired for so many years. Seeing her tears and her grievance voice, Ji Tsang Tian's heart softened. He sighed helplessly as he stretched out his hand and pulled Lan Ling Nuo into his embrace. "I'll take responsibility, I'll take responsibility." This action caused the members to widen their eyes. They didn't expect that their brothers would be torn to pieces by the other magical beasts because of this woman's willfulness. They didn't even have a complete corpse. His regiment commander was actually holding that woman in his arms. Just because that woman shed a few tears. No matter what, the members were unable to accept it. Looking at the members of the Blue Dragon mercenary group, their eyes were burning with rage as they stared at their group leader and Lan Ling Nuo. He knew that they were having an internal conflict because of Lan Ling Nuo. The youngsters in the world group treated it as though they were watching a farce. He felt that the leader of the Blue Dragon group was indeed a short-sighted person. For the sake of a woman, he actually disregarded the life and death of his own brother. It was no wonder that the group members would show such expressions. They absolutely believed that if the same thing happened to Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not allow Dmo Xian to have any chance to hurt them. No, that's not right. It should be said that the Overlord would absolutely not hurt them because of Madame Qing Luo. But Yiqing Luo and the others didn't have the leisure to bother about Blue Dragon Group's farce. Yiqing Luo told Dmo Xian everything that she had seen earlier. I feel that, there's a possibility that it's the dark forces doing. Chapter 588. It's the dark forces. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly and that long and narrow corner of his eyes curled into an arc. It was no longer the usual devilish charm but an icy chill. His slightly narrowed eyes reflected a sharp blade. Yiqing Luo's petite body froze as she immediately followed Dmo Xian's gaze. This one look made Yiqing Luo's pupils dilate in disbelief. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to tell. On Child Yin's shoulder, there seemed to be a figure wearing a black cloak. That was the disguise of the dark forces. Something's not right. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. When the beast tide surged over, what I saw wasn't this figure. Although it was just a flash. But she remembered it clearly. Compared to the black-cloaked man, the figure in the middle of the magical beasts was taller and more slender. It looked a little like a woman. In other words, Childine was specially manipulated by the dark forces to come to the 5th level to deal with her. And the beast tide was another wave of people who wanted to kill her. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched fiercely for a few times. She didn't seem to have offended anyone, to the extent that she had to take her life. The beast tide is small, the crux is that Childine. Dmo Xian raised his hand and stroked her silky hair. If Lil Luo were to open her mouth, I would. Can you? Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she stared straight into Dmo Xian's eyes. Dmo Xian's fingers that were caressing her hair curled up slightly as he lightly knocked on her forehead. In your eyes, am I that weak? What he meant was that this Childine to him wasn't a fierce beast that was hard to deal with. The reason why his expression turned ugly was because he was worried that Yiqing Luo and the others would be injured when they were dealing with Childine. After all, with Yiqing Luo's stubbornness, there was a possibility that she might reject his help. Yiqing Luo clutched her head, but her face was filled with joy and shock, that is to say. Ah Xian, your profound grade is not just sky profound. Dmo Xian's thin lips hooked up slightly as he leaned close to her ear and said with a smile that didn't look like a smile, if Lil Luo gives me some benefits, I don't mind telling you the profound grade. That warm breath faintly brushed past her earlobes. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly as she raised her fist and punched towards his chest. Not only was he a sky profound supreme, how strong was he? Obviously. Dmo Xian was only a few years older than her. In the entire Nirvana realm, the number of people who had reached the profound sky realm at his age could be counted on one hand. Not to mention a Sky Xian supreme martial artist. Old Man Song, what realm is above the Sky Profound Supreme? Yiqing Luo was really curious. In her memories, the highest realm was the Sky Profound realm. Old Man Song muttered to himself for a moment. This old man can only tell you that above the sky profound realm is the sage profound realm. Furthermore, the grades will be derived from 9 grades to 15 grades, and each grade is divided into 3 levels, the early stage, the middle stage, and the peak stage. In other words, he was telling Yiqing Luo that Dmo Xian's current profound grade was at least at the level of sage profound. As for what grade it was, he did not know. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely as the gaze she shot at Dmo Xian was filled with a sliver of worship. As expected of her man, he was actually so powerful. As for the profound rank after that, wait until you've surpassed the sky profound realm, then you'll naturally know. After Old Man Song finished speaking, he didn't say anything else. It was obvious that he didn't intend to say anything more. Yiqing Luo didn't ask any further. She hadn't even broken through the earth profound realm, not to mention the profound rank after the sky profound realm. Everything, when she reached that stage, she would naturally know. Chapter 589. Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly as he understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. She wanted to give it a try, to deal with this Childine. Even if he was unable to kill Childine, battling with a 7th-level high-leveled Mirage beast would definitely be able to raise his own ability. This was exactly how Yiqing Luo believed in Dmo Xian. She had placed her life in Dmo Xian's hands. So what if Childine was powerful? Whether he could do it or not, he would only know after he tried. Especially such a rare opportunity, how could Yiqing Luo bear to let it go? If she really couldn't do it, then Dmo Xian would do it. Yiqing Luo narrowed her crafty eyes as her little hand hooked onto his smooth lower jaw. Of course, don't think of just standing by the side to watch. That black-cloaked man, I'll leave it to you, the people from the dark forces actually dared to show themselves. If they didn't leave something behind, how could they let them go so easily? TSK, you're so assured of me. Although Dmo Xian's words were filled with grievance, his eyes were filled with adoration, which obviously indicated that he was in a good mood. Yiqing Luo believed in his ability, and this was the biggest affirmation towards him. The two of them flirted with each other in a low voice. Their obvious display of affection blinded the eyes of the members of the Blue Dragon group. Especially Lan Ling Nuo, who was nestled in Ji Tsang Tian's arms. Her entire face was twisted, malevolent and terrifying. A nameless flame of jealousy rose in Lan Ling Nuo's heart. She wanted to pull Yiqing Luo, who was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, out, not wanting to see any other woman in that position. This thought caused Lan Ling Nuo's heart to tremble. Could it be that she had feelings for that ordinary-looking man? Actually, although the man's appearance was rather ordinary, his eyes and temperament were like that of a banished immortal. If one only looked at her back, it would be a beautiful scene. Furthermore, his embrace was extremely wide and firm. She had an urge to stay in that embrace forever. She wanted to. Countless thoughts surged in his mind. When these thoughts ran through her mind like crazy, Lan Ling Nuo's expression suddenly sank, and she hurriedly brainwashed herself. No. Impossible. She was just unwilling, but this man was actually not charmed by her beauty. She was jealous of Yiqing Luo. It must be because the man whom she was unable to seduce had been seduced by Yiqing Luo. That's right, that's it. Hey! You useless team. Why are you still standing there like a fool? Aren't they very powerful? There are so many magical beasts. Aren't you going to kill them? Lan Ling Nuo screeched at Yiqing Luo's direction. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Are we going to be trapped here with you bunch of trash today? We're going back to the academy tomorrow. If we don't make it back in time and break my excellent attendance record, I won't forgive you. At the mention of the academy, the other group members all started talking at once. Yes. Tomorrow Tomorrow we have to go to the academy, we can't be trapped here. If our credits are deducted, we won't be able to graduate. Are we going to be trapped here today? Academy. These mercenaries were also from the academy. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she sized them up. These people's faces were unfamiliar to her. If they were Heavenly Academy students, she would definitely have an impression of them. These people should be students from other academies. Indeed, Lonling Nuo stood up and stood on the huge rock, looking down at Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 590. We're all Heaven class students in Lady Phoenix Academy, and if half of the students in the class don't make it back to the academy tomorrow, the academy will definitely investigate our whereabouts, and by then, our respective families will be alerted. Lonling Nuo's beautiful face revealed a smirk of arrogance. I advise you to escort us out of the magic beast forest safely, otherwise. The minute the academy and families find their way here, you will absolutely not be able to bear the consequences. Hearing Lonling Nuo's words, Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing. Who gave this fool such confidence? Who made this fool to be so arrogant? Stand out. She absolutely wouldn't slap her face. Sentence after sentence of threats, she really treated herself as something. As a woman, how could Yiqing Luo possibly not tell that Lonling Nuo's eyes which was unable to conceal jealousy? Yiqing Luo really laughed out loud at this moment. She raised her eyes and stared at the man beside her as she shook her head helplessly. This man's charm was unstoppable. He had already disguised himself into such an ordinary look, yet he was still able to capture the heart of Lonling Nuo, who thought she was the most beautiful woman in the entire world. She had no choice but to admire Dmo Xian's charm. Dmo Xian put on an innocent look as he shrugged and shook his head. I didn't do anything. If you do anything, she will become even crazier. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as her charming eyes swept towards Lonling Nuo. After some time, she revealed an arc which didn't look like a smile. This arc was filled with an icy chill. Following that, Yiqing Luo placed her hands behind her back as she strolled towards Lonling Nuo. That arrogant and condescending imposing manner forced the surrounding Blue Dragon Group's members to open up a path. Who do you think you are? The world group is powerful and incredible, but if we don't kill these magical beasts, what can you do to us? That devastatingly beautiful face was obviously smiling, but the words that she spat out made one feel as though they were in an ice house. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo continued, if you don't want to be trapped together with us, then scram out of our enchantment. If you don't want to break your academy's excellent attendance record, then scram out of our enchantment. As for your academy, your families, and whatnot, what has it got to do with us? Now I am suspecting that these magical beasts were attracted by your Blue Dragon mercenary group. Sentence after sentence was spat out from Yiqing Luo's mouth icily. There was a hint of disdain in her eyes as she sneered. Her smile grew wider as she said, trash that relies on us to survive, who gave you the guts to shout here? The last sentence was said by Yiqing Luo word by word, and it was directed at Lonling Nuo. Anyone who dared to covet her, Yiqing Luo's man, had to see if she agreed to it or not. She even dared to slander him time and time again. Did she really think that everyone had to love her? Yiqing Luo had never talked about such feelings before. But in her understanding, the so-called love could not tolerate the slightest grain of sand. Between her and Dmo Xian, she would absolutely not allow anyone to come between them. Even if Dmo Xian didn't have any feelings for Lonling Nuo, and couldn't even remember what Lonling Nuo looked like. But she wouldn't allow it. You could say that she was overbearing or selfish, but to her, feelings were just like that. You. Lonling Nuo was choked by Yiqing Luo as her face flushed red, as she was so stunned that she couldn't even say a single word of rebuttal. Lonling Nuo was obviously standing on the huge rock, wanting to say that she was able to suppress Yiqing Luo's arrogance by looking down at her. But at this moment, she was so intimidated by Yiqing Luo that she started to tremble. Chapter 591. Miss. Your words are too serious. Ji Tian eventually couldn't bear to see his beloved woman being bullied by others as he went up to pull Lan Ling Nuo into his arms. Is it serious? Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as her brows were filled with coquettish charm. You who depend on us to survive, when you're arrogantly ordering us around, why don't you say it's serious? Ji Tian's words were dry as his face turned steely green. Young lady, we are Celestial Phoenix Academy's students and I'm East Water Continent's Ji family's young master. Sister Nuo is the East Water Monarch's sister. On account of our Ji family and the royal family's face, today's matter. Before he could finish his words, he saw Yiqing Luo raising her palm to stop his words. Following that, the feather fan in Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved and a bewitching red glow pressed towards him. Ji Tian had not expected Yiqing Luo to make a move just like that as he was stunned momentarily and in his fluster, he hugged Lan Ling Nuo as he turned around and leapt up. However, he had forgotten that he was currently in a spirit formation. With this leap, he leaped out of the spirit formation. A pungent stench entered their noses. The deafening howls of the demonic beasts pierced their eardrums. Countless birds and beasts pounced on the two of them like lightning upon seeing them leap out of the spirit formation. They were so densely packed that the two of them turned pale with fright. Luckily Ji Tian's reaction was swift as he immediately returned to the array barrier. Just as he was about to explode his anger towards Yiqing Luo, he saw that enchanting woman holding a cold arc with a smile that didn't look like a smile, her feather fan pressed against her pink lips as she laughed lightly. What has your status got to do with me? Just a few simple words were enough to inflict a heavy blow on the two of them. All along, he had thought that his incomparably noble identity, in Yiqing Luo's eyes, couldn't even stir up a single ripple. Could it be, this woman's status was even higher than theirs? It was no wonder that they didn't know Yiqing Luo's identity. They had only heard of the World Group's name but were unable to investigate the information of the World Group's members. Because before this, no one had ever seen this group of youths. As for Yiqing Luo's identity and the news of these youngsters coming out from the Imperial Palace, only the people in West Continent's Three Springs City knew about it. Ji Tian hugged Lan Ling Nuo as his pride had been unknowingly trampled into dregs by Yiqing Luo. However, at this moment, he couldn't say a single word. He was completely stunned by Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. However, Lan Ling Nuo was relentless. She had never suffered such humiliation before. Ever since she was a child, she had been the proud daughter of the heavens. Relying on her beautiful face, her life in the East Continent had been smooth sailing. She could be called a queen whose status was second only to her cousin, Junimo Xia. Who didn't bow and scrape when they saw her? Why was he humiliated by an unknown nobody in the Western Continent? Well done. How dare you look down on the dignity of our Eastern Continent's imperial family? Lan Ling Nuo popped her head out from Ji Tian's arms as her face was filled with anger. Just you wait till I return to East Continent. I want my royal cousin to send troops to invade your West Continent. Sister Nuo. Ji Tian pressed down on Lan Ling Nuo's head as his brows creased tightly as he cried out in a low voice, "Stop talking. You're afraid of her but I'm not." Lan Ling Nuo's chest heaved up and down as she couldn't help but grumble that Ji Tian was a big coward. If they were to lose today, wouldn't it make West Continent's people think that their East Continent was easy to bully? Thinking in this way, Lan Ling Nuo's expression turned even gloomier. But her words had just ended when she felt a gust of cold wind blowing against her face and immediately felt an icy coldness on her neck. Not knowing when, Yiqing Luo was already standing in front of her. Chapter 592. Lan Ling Nuo looked down and saw a slender wrist that was as smooth as jade. The slender fingers were tightly wrapped around her neck. The coldness of his fingertips was like ice melting on her neck. Lan Ling Nuo's petite body suddenly stiffened as her pupils enlarged, staring at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. How did Yiqing Luo appear in front of her? And how did he choke her? Ji Tsang Tian was actually sent flying. Before she could even react, she was restrained by Yiqing Luo. At this very moment, Lan Ling Nuo deeply felt Yiqing Luo's power. She absolutely believed that Yiqing Luo wasn't simply trying to scare her. He really did not put her status in his eyes at all. He really wanted to kill her. Lan Ling Nuo was scared. Her beautiful face was pale with fright, and her entire body started to tremble. Seeing her in this state, Yiqing Luo's brows revealed a sweet arc, as she was extremely enchanting. Today you're standing on our West Continent soil, even if you're the emperor, you'll have to be obedient. Following that, Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers suddenly increased the strength. Lan Ling Nuo widened her eyes in terror. She kept extending her hands, trying to pry open the clamp on her neck. But she didn't even have the chance to move, let alone lift her hand. Ji Tsang Tian saw this and his eyes were filled with pain. He wanted to go up to help Lan Ling Nuo, but after the group members supported him, they held on to his arms. The arrogant and willful Lan Ling Nuo indeed needed someone to take her down a peg. It was also time to let Lan Ling Nuo know that not everyone should revolve around her. Either shut up or get lost, or I'll throw you out right now. Yiqing Luo didn't have any protective feelings for the fairer sex as she dropped this sentence and released her hand. Without Yiqing Luo's support, Lan Ling Nuo's entire person was like a pile of mud, softly lying on the huge rock. Her beautiful face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and there was even a hint of ashen. Filled with resentment, Lan Ling Nuo didn't dare to speak another word. No one stood on her side, and no one was willing to speak up for her. Even Ji Tsang Tian didn't speak up for her. Lan Ling Nuo felt that the whole world had betrayed her. Obviously all these were Ji Tsang Tian's fault. It was Ji Tsang Tian who brought her to the magical beast forest without any explanation, and it was Ji Tsang Tian who admired her beauty. On what basis was it that when something happened to her, he didn't care about her at all? Lan Ling Nuo's eyes were filled with intense hatred, and her facial features were hideous and twisted. Ji Tsang Tian, who was originally standing by the side, preparing to head up to appease Yiqing Luo after she left, when he saw her in this state, he instantly shuddered. Was this still the smart and kind sister Nuo in his heart? When he saw those eyes filled with hatred, he trembled with fear. At the same time, at the entrance to the first level of the magical beast forest, more than a dozen men in black clothes were hiding in the forest with sharp broadswords in their hands. The leader of the group was a black-robed man. Although he was also dressed in black, the material he was wearing was obviously smooth silk, which was of a much higher grade than the other black-robed men. Furthermore, the black-clothed man was wearing a jade crown inlaid with a few gems. He stood in front of the 10 over black-robed men as he stuck his head out to look towards the direction of the entrance, as though he was waiting for something. "Fourth young master, you'd better rest in the forest for a while. We'll keep a close watch on you." A black-robed man behind spoke out speechlessly. They were assassins. Assassins. Chapter 593. Having such a silly master, they started to doubt if they could complete today's assassination mission. "Don't worry about me. The moment I think about how I can hold Yiqing Luo, that little slut, in my palm and play with her however I want, I feel delighted." That black-robed man who was addressed as fourth young master gave a sinister sneer as he clenched the long sword in his hand. As though he recalled the scene which he had described, he raised his head and laughed heartily. 10 over killers. This fourth young master wasn't anyone else but Yuchi family's fourth young master, Yuchiya. Yuchi family's patriarch had lost his face in front of so many commoners and became the joke of the entire Three Springs city. How could Yuchi family's patriarch take this lying down? So he naturally pushed all the blame onto Yiqing Luo. Yesterday, on account of Mu Zifan's Alchemist Guild's chief token, he let Yiqing Luo off. But today, he absolutely must kill Yiqing Luo. Hence, he sent his secret guards to the mansion early in the morning to inquire about the World Group's whereabouts. Then he heard that they were going to the Magic Beast Forest to complete a mission. What kind of place was the Magic Beast Forest? That was a place where danger lurked in all directions, and if they were not careful, they would lose their lives there. They only needed to kill Yiqing Luo and the others after she came out. If Yiqing Luo and the others died, the outsiders would only think that they had met with danger while they were completing a mission in the Magic Beast Forest. Who would suspect the Yuchi family? When Yuchi family's patriarch instructed the killers, it was coincidentally heard by Yuchiya. He and Yiqing Luo originally had an irreconcilable enmity and had been looking for an opportunity to take revenge on her. But unfortunately Yiqing Luo had entered the Heavenly Academy and was locked in the academy for a month, so where would he get the chance to take revenge? This time round, Yiqing Luo had offended the entire Yuchi family. His father would definitely not let Yiqing Luo off, and after crossing hands, he knew Yiqing Luo and the others' skills and ability. The killers he sent out would definitely be top-rated experts. Yuchiya immediately volunteered and led 10 over high-leveled killers to wait outside the Magic Beast Forest. Those killers racked their brains and discussed if they should directly knock Yuchiya unconscious and wake him up after the mission was completed. Suddenly they heard Yuchiya's cry of shock, someone is coming out, it's a person. Saying this, Yuchiya's entire head shrank back into the thicket. The other assassins immediately held their breaths and hid in the dark. Sure enough, a figure dressed in a long black robe appeared at the entrance that was filled with dense foliage and eerie qi. That figure was extremely slender, and one could tell at a glance that it was a woman. Yuchiya's brows creased tightly. Could it be that Yiqing Luo knew that there were killers lying in ambush at the entrance and intentionally used this method to avoid detection? Just as he was about to charge forward and restrain the woman, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. However, he discovered that after the woman walked out of the entrance, there was a large group of giant magical beasts following closely behind her. The magical beasts stopped at the edge of the entrance and did not step out. Even if Yuchiya didn't understand the ways of the world, he still knew that each and every one of those magical beasts were at least mid-level or above. There were also quite a number of high-level magical beasts mixed in. Magical beasts also had their own rules of survival. These mid to high-level magical beasts would never come below the third tier. Not only was Yuchiya stupefied, even those experienced and knowledgeable assassins behind him were stupefied. This was the first time they saw so many mid to high-level magical beasts appearing at the entrance of the Magic Beast Forest. Looking at it, there were at least 20 over of them. This woman was absolutely not Yiqing Luo. Chapter 594. The black-robed lady could control a group of beasts. She was absolutely not an ordinary lady. Yuchiya had totally treated this lady as an otherworldly expert, as even his breathing became cautious, afraid that the lady would discover them. Luckily, the lady bade farewell to those magical beasts and immediately turned around to leave. The lady had just turned around when coincidentally a light breeze blew over. The lady's black robe on her head was lifted, revealing half of her exquisite and beautiful side face as well as a black arc at the corner of her eyes, which made her look extremely amorous. That was. Yuchiya felt as though he was struck by lightning as he stared at that lady in disbelief. Even though her makeup had changed, he could still recognize her at one glance. Wasn't she? Within the array barrier, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's atmosphere had sunk into a state of low spirits. The group members, group leader and Lan Ling Nua all developed feelings of rejection. On the contrary, on Yiqing Luo's side, all the youngsters stood quietly on the spot. Without the group leader or vice group leader's instructions, no one spoke up first and no one moved at all, quietly waiting for them to think of a way. Yiqing Luo discussed her and Dmo Xian's plan with Long Yunzhan and the others. When everyone heard that this huge beast was Child Yin from the 7th level, their expressions turned ugly. 7th level. That was the legendary level. In the entire West continent, they had only heard of it but had never seen it before. A mirage beast which had walked out from the legendary level, moreover it was a high-leveled mirage beast. It was imaginable how difficult it was to deal with. Although Qiao Jin felt that doing this was too risky and if they were not careful, they could easily lose their lives. But in the end, he couldn't resist Yiqing Luo's insistence. He took a look at the Overlord and realized that the Overlord didn't say a word with a calm expression, so he finally compromised. The Overlord valued Yiqing Luo more than anyone else and with him around, nothing would happen. After the few of them agreed, Yiqing Luo then turned around and looked at those young faces behind her as she smiled faintly. Group leader and I will deal with the huge beast. The surrounding beast tide will be handed over to you and those from Blue Dragon Group, no problem, right? Although these words were said to the World Group's youngsters, but in actual fact, it was said for Blue Dragon Group's members. Ji Tsangtian was stunned as he turned his head to look outside the array barrier. Those fierce-looking magical beasts were slightly terrified as they hesitated, not daring to respond. These were magical beasts, batches of mid to high-level magical beasts. At least, there were over 100 of them. They could deal with one or two, but with so many magical beasts, weren't they just sending themselves to death? There was no response from the other side, so how would Yiqing Luo not understand what Blue Dragon Group was thinking? She sneered, if you want to live, then rely on your own strength to rush out of danger. Otherwise, just wait to become the food of these magical beasts. The barrier can't last forever. Following that, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to interact with them any further as she directly told the World Group's youngsters about some matters to take note of. For example, the surroundings were filled with trees. He could make use of the trees to nimbly avoid the demonic beasts before launching an attack. It was also commonly known as a kite. For example, although magical beasts had their own consciousness, they were still magical beasts. The figure that led the horde of beasts was no longer nearby, which meant that there was no one commanding these magical beasts. These demonic beasts were definitely attacking randomly. All they had to do was to attack the low-level magical beasts in an orderly manner, defeating them one by one, and disrupting the entirety of the magical beasts. These little tricks were easy to say, but how much they could comprehend would depend on the comprehension ability of these youths. Chapter 595. Child Yin's body was tall and sturdy, like a huge mountain. It sensed Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's appearance, or perhaps its target was the both of them. With a leap, it pounced towards them. This was as though a huge mountain was collapsing right in front of them. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's gazes met and the both of them flipped sideways at the same time. One struck towards Child Yin's head while the other turned into a black shadow, and in a blink of an eye, it had already merged into the air. Yiqing Luo's figure was outstanding as the feather fan on her fingertips kept on spinning, stirring up thousands of miles of wind as it shot out numerous silver wires, winding around Child Yin's head. Those few silver wires directly wound around Child Yin's neck, winding several rounds. Just as Yiqing Luo was preparing to tighten the silver wires, she saw Child Yin's two huge and sturdy arms muscles tensing up. A loud sound was heard as those iron wires directly broke apart. Boom boom boom, Child Yin's legs smashed heavily onto the ground. In a split second, the earth quaked and the mountain swayed as the ground started to crack, revealing many cracks. Even the people in the array barrier couldn't help but be affected. Everyone was shaken till they were on the verge of collapsing, almost falling out of the array barrier. Some of the surrounding magical beasts weren't able to evade in time as they fell right into the cracks which had opened up. Momentarily, the entire fifth level had sunk into unprecedented chaos. At this moment, Long Yunjian and the others moved. Their movements were agile and their speed was extremely fast, like a bolt of lightning, as they charged towards Childine. Seeing the group leader and the other bosses starting to move, the world group's youngsters remembered what Yiqing Luo said earlier as they all started to join in the battle. Now was the best opportunity to attack. The ground kept on cracking. Those magical beasts' speed was fast and they had intelligence, but between the same species, there would always be cases of mutual biting and brawling. Not to mention that right now, there were various kinds of magical beasts gathered together. Under the situation where there was no one to command them, the magical beasts sensed danger from the cracks in the ground and didn't care if the opposite party was a friend or foe. All they cared about was biting and killing. Magical beasts' desire to live was much stronger than humans. After Amo Han Shang dashed out of the enchantment, he speedily stepped on a magical beast which was stuck in a crack on the ground. With a wave of his long sword, he swiftly chopped off the magical beast's head. They had won morale for this battle with the demonic beasts. The youngsters in the world group felt their blood boiling as their eyes brimmed with hope and determination of youth. This scene made the members of the Blue Dragon group feel that the passion that had been extinguished by the mission and the development of the mercenary group seemed to have returned. He'd cultivated to become a profounder and joined a mercenary group because he wanted to become strong and prove his ability. Who doesn't have their own dream of being a hero? Looking at the fearless youths killing the demonic beasts in front of them in an orderly manner, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. In their hearts, a surge of passionate blood was rippling. Leader! Leader! Numerous group members turned their gazes towards Ji Zhangtian. They wanted to go out and fight. They wanted to leave the barrier and fight for themselves, for the mercenary group. That female group leader of the world group was right. If he wanted to live, he would have to rely on his own strength to rush out of danger and work hard to find an opportunity to survive. The barrier couldn't possibly last for an entire lifetime. Even if it could last for an entire lifetime, they couldn't possibly stay in the barrier forever, not going anywhere at all. Ji Zhangtian was the same. He naturally heard Yiqing Luo and the others' discussion. That huge beast was a high-leveled mirage beast which came from the 7th level. Even a Sky Mystic Overlord strong exponent was unable to kill it. Chapter 596. It was the same for the others. Didn't they know that a high-leveled mirage beast from the 7th level wasn't something that people like them could go against? No, they knew. They knew the dangers of going against high-leveled mirage beasts. But they still charged up without any hesitation. Because, they trusted each other. Willing to attempt to cross hands with danger, willing to challenge the impossible. This was the true way of a strong practitioner. Ji Zhangtian recalled how he ridiculed the world group as a trash group, ridiculing Yiqing Luo and the others for only knowing how to chat leisurely while making his own group members do the mission, so he was extremely ashamed. Just as he was about to open his mouth, his chest was suddenly tugged by someone and following that, he heard a lady's gentle voice trembling, "Don't go. Brother Zhangtian, don't go." Lan Ling Nuo suppressed the anger in her eyes as she tried her best to put on a frightened look, as one hand hugged Ji Zhangtian's waist tightly. Her other hand was holding on to Ji Zhangtian's lapel as she buried her soft petite body into his embrace. She absolutely could not let Ji Zhangtian help that trash group. Recalling everything that Yiqing Luo had done to her earlier, Lan Ling Nuo's heart was filled with rage. From what she saw, Blue Dragon Group's members leaving the array barrier to kill the other magical beasts was helping that wretched woman. That wretched woman was her enemy, which meant that she was also Ji Tsang Tian's enemy, which meant that she was the entire Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's enemy. I'll accompany you. Ji Tsang Tian's hand which was holding his lapel was soft as though it had no bones, carrying a lady's fragrance. Ji Tsang Tian's heart was pounding furiously as he lowered his eyes and looked at the lady in his arms affectionately. Suddenly, he was grateful for this accident. His sister Noah had already started to rely on him and knew how to automatically snuggle up to him. Did this mean that Lan Ling Noah had actually liked him all along? This thought made Ji Tsang Tian's lips uncontrollably curl into a smile as his palm tightened, hugging the delicate lady even tighter. Sister Noah, don't be afraid, Brother Tsang Tian will always be by your side. The surrounding group members were still waiting for Ji Tsang Tian's command. Originally being infected by the world group's youngsters and being hot-blooded, when he saw this scene filled with deep emotions, the hot-blooded blood in his heart was suddenly extinguished. As a result, they became even more disgusted with Lan Ling Noah. It was already a matter of life and death, yet she was still displaying her princess temper. Did she really think that she was still in the East Continent's imperial palace, that she was still that spoiled and willful Princess Ling Noah? At first, he thought that Lan Ling Noah was intelligent and likable. Now, he felt that Lan Ling Noah was as dumb as a pig. They simply couldn't be bothered to ask for Ji Tsang Tian's opinion. Anyway, their group leader was prepared to accompany this willful little princess. He gripped his weapon tightly and prepared to rush out of the barrier. Stop! Lan Ling Noah suddenly popped her head out from Ji Tsang Tian's arms as she stared coldly at those group members. All of you are not allowed to go. Stay here with me. Princess Ling Noah. Sister Noah. Group members and Ji Tsang Tian opened their mouths at the same time. The group members couldn't understand the princess's train of thought. They were flirting with each other here. Did they need someone else to accompany them? Ji Tsang Tian was astonished as his handsome brows creased slightly. Sister Noah, don't worry, I alone can protect you. He thought that Lan Ling Noah didn't believe in his own ability. Chapter 597. F***K. The group members' hearts were filled with curses as they wanted to burst out with vulgarities. Was there something wrong with this princess's brain? In the past they thought that Lan Ling Noah was intelligent or whatever, they were absolutely blind. Looking at the anger in the group members' eyes and their tightly clenched fists, Lan Ling Noah's expression changed slightly as she immediately buried her head into Ji Tsang Tian's arms as she sobbed, Brother Tsang Tian. Brother Tsang Tian. I don't allow you to help that slut. I don't allow it. She was sobbing softly as she whimpered in grievance. Every now and then, she would raise her eyes which were stained with tears as she looked pitifully at Ji Tsang Tian. I know that you've taken a fancy to that slut's beauty and you feel that she's beautiful. You want to save her and help her. Brother Tsang Tian, tell me, have you also taken a fancy to that slut? Don't you want Noah anymore? This round of unreasonable pestering made the surrounding group members' mouths agape as their faces were filled with disbelief as their jaws almost dropped onto the ground. What? What on earth was Lan Ling Noah thinking about in her mind? Leaving the array barrier to kill the magical beasts was helping the world group. What was she thinking? Damn it, they went out to kill the magical beasts, obviously for the sake of survival, for the entire Blue Dragon mercenary group. However, Ji Tsang Tian's attention was placed on Lan Ling Noah's last sentence. Don't want her anymore. How could he possibly bear to not want her? Ji Tsang Tian's heart was melted by Lan Ling Noah's tears. His large palm gently patted Lan Ling Noah's back as he spoke in a gentle tone. How could that be? How could I possibly take a fancy to another woman? Sister Noah, you know that from the moment I met you 4 years ago, I've always been admiring you. The feelings which had always been suppressed in his heart finally came out. Ji Tsung Tian's heart was pounding like thunder. He waited anxiously for Lan Ling Nuo's reply. Lan Ling Nuo stared with a pair of misty eyes as she blinked, and a shade of red instantly surfaced on her face as she buried herself into Ji Tsung Tian's arms. She didn't reply, but her actions were the best answer. Ji Tsung Tian was so excited that he was about to scream out. His arms hugged Lan Ling Nuo tightly. The woman whom he had admired for so many years had finally agreed to become his woman. "Commander, are we really just going to sit here and wait for death?" One of the members clenched his fists tightly and shouted in a low, gruff voice. "Let's talk about it later." Ji Tsung Tian replied without even turning his head back. In other words, none of them were allowed to leave the barrier. None of them were allowed to leave the barrier. "Leader." The group members trembled in disbelief. They couldn't understand how their leader could be so mesmerized by beauty. "Didn't you hear what your sister-in-law said, not to let you help the world group?" Ji Tsung Tian's voice suddenly turned gloomy as his imposing aura started to spread out as he berated them. In the world group, he had already lost his face in front of Lan Ling Nuo. He absolutely couldn't let Lan Ling Nuo feel that he couldn't even control his own brother. The guild members gripped the weapons in their hands tightly and sat back down on the cracked ground without saying a word. They were mercenaries. The most important thing for a mercenary was to obey orders. This scene was caught by Yiqing Luo, who was dealing with Childine from afar. There was no other expression on her face, only a disdainful sneer. It was no wonder that after developing to 900 over people, they were still a bronze plate mercenary group. No matter how strong their ability was, they were still a failure as humans. Under this kind of situation, they had already lost their lives, but they still had the leisure to flirt around. Ha! She was indeed a femme fatale. Yiqing Luo scoffed softly as her gaze refocused onto the huge mountain-like Childine. Chapter 598. That black-cloaked man didn't escape speedily this time round because he had been discovered. On the contrary, he met Dmo Xian's attack head-on as he struck out a burst of powerful black qi. That black qi was like a soft snake as it coiled towards Dmo Xian. Apparently, the black-cloaked man had 100% confidence that he could kill everyone present. Dmo Xian's expression remained calm, and when the black qi coiled around him, he stretched out his finger and made a casual sweep. That black qi instantly dissipated. Following that, Dmo Xian's black hair, which was like smoke, spread out on his shoulders as it fluttered without any wind. He was dressed in black, and that bundle of cherry blossom totem on his arm, under this scenario, seemed to have turned into a real flame as it kept on burning. In just a blink of an eye, that flame had already enveloped the black-cloaked man, as though he was using fire to burn the other party. In the array barrier, Blue Dragon mercenary group's members were simply dumbstruck as they watched. Who on earth were these people? Who was that black-cloaked man? Furthermore, that black-cloaked man seemed to have been flipped down from Childine's shoulder. Which meant to say, Childine was lured over by this black-cloaked man. A person who was able to control 7th level advanced leveled mirage beasts. How powerful was he? But in the hands of this ordinary-looking young man, he was so easily subdued. Just at this moment, that black-cloaked man who was enveloped in flames emitted a gloomy and cold black qi. The surrounding 10 miles of air instantly congealed. It was as if even breathing was an eerie feeling. Hold your breaths. Dmo Xian's cold and calm voice rang leisurely. His tone was emotionless as his vision shot towards the direction of the world group's youngsters who were fighting bravely. Following that, the wind from his palm moved as it split that congealed air into half. Whereas this split gave the youngsters time to react. They speedily held their breaths as the actions of killing the magical beasts in their hands didn't stop. Yiqing Luo understood. That black-cloaked man released his profounding chi to extinguish the profound fire which Dmo Xian had congealed using his profound chi. The profounding chi which came from the dark forces, when released in this way, was poisonous. If these youngsters were to breathe it into their bodies, they would definitely be affected by the black chi. The look of Yi Qingling and Yu Qiping being swallowed and controlled by the profounding chi, Yi Qing Luo still remembered it clearly. After the black gas on the black-cloaked man dissipated, he prepared to head towards the direction of Childine. Ignoring him, Dmo Xian had already turned into a black shadow and stuck to the back of the black-cloaked man. That's enough. Just a few simple words were spat out from Dmo Xian's mouth, and those youths whose faces were flush red speedily started to pant heavily. However, from the beginning to the end, they had never cooperated with each other. This is what a team should be. Suddenly, someone beside him let out a sigh. The other members also followed that person's gaze and looked over. Instantly, his body stiffened and tensed up. Ever since the Blue Dragon mercenary group was established, they felt that they belonged to the same group. But after seeing the World Group's cooperation today, these group members finally understood what was called a team and what was called trust. Danger lurked in every corner, but they arranged for their men to disperse in an orderly manner. Moreover, they were extremely confident that their comrades would be able to obtain victory. They only went against their own target and wouldn't bother about the other target's actions, completely trusting their brothers. Every single one of them wasn't working hard for themselves, but for their brothers, for their team. Chapter 599. Outside the array barrier, those young figures were fighting bravely while bathed in blood. The ground was filled with magical beasts' corpses as blood flowed like a river. Their clothes had already been dyed red. Some belonged to the magical beasts, some belonged to them, and some belonged to their companions. Each and every one of them waved the weapons in their hands tirelessly. The way they cooperated well with each other to kill the magical beasts, some were simple and violent, some were despicable and played dirty, and there were also. But no matter which one it was, their coordination rhythm would not be disrupted at all. Looking towards Yi Qing Luo's side, it was even more exciting. The man who was facing Childine right in front didn't hold any weapon and just used his bare fists to resist all of Childine's attacks, attracting Childine's attention. He kept on shifting his body and his speed was extremely fast, but it just so happened to control Childine completely within the attack range of his other brothers. While he was moving, he kept on trying to find Childine's Achilles heel. The most shocking thing was that pair of azure blue eyes and that expressionless face. Looking at the right side, that young man who was holding a gold coin dart in his hands. Every single time the gold coin dart was waved, no matter how fast Childin's speed was, it would definitely leave some traces on Childin's body. Whereas that young lady behind Childine had exquisite and sweet looks as her lips curled into a smile. But her hands were holding onto a pair of crescent moon-shaped sickles, as she waved them around in an overbearing manner. She kept on shifting and leaping, maintaining herself behind Childine as she waved her sickles, chopping fiercely onto Childin's back. Standing on Childin's left was a pink-robed young lady, as petite as an 11 or 12-year-old child. She was leaping and shuttling around Childin's body. Her pink dress was like a pink pair of wings as the bells on her wrist gave off a crisp ringing sound. That Lolita's sweet expressionless face was in a daze, without any expression at all. Those two pink furry balls on her long dress had now turned into 1,000 caddies' heavy iron hammer, becoming her weapon, and it could be retracted as she wished. It was obviously just an ornament, but when the furry balls swept past, it crashed into a thick and sturdy big tree, directly chopping that big tree into two. What shocked these group members the most was the lady standing in the air above Childine. She held a red feather fan in her hand, and every time she waved it, the feather fan would turn into blazing flames as profound chi was released, turning into thousands of sharp blades as they covered the sky and covered the earth as they shot towards Childine. Immediately after, numerous silver threads entangled Childine once again. There was a faint smile on her beautiful face from beginning to end. However, her pair of charming eyes reflected a piercingly cold light. Just a glance at them would cause one's entire body to tremble. The members of the Blue Dragon group suddenly understood why the youths were killing the demonic beasts on the 4th level, while they just stood by and watched. Because they were too strong. He was so powerful that he could easily kill those magical beasts with just a flick of his finger. They were using their own methods to train these youths. However, when they encountered truly powerful and dangerous giant beasts, they would directly resist them. Leader, I'm sorry. We have to join this battle. Leader, I'm a mercenary. I'm a real man. I can't let a woman destroy our Blue Dragon mercenary group. One by one, the group members stood up and walked out of the array barrier without even turning their heads back. No matter how exasperated Lan Ling Nuo was, no one turned their heads back. Ji Tsang Tian looked at those group members who were scolding hysterically as his brows kept twitching. Chapter 600. In the entire Blue Dragon mercenary group, there were only 20 over people left in the array barrier. Perhaps it was because they obeyed Ji Tsang Tian's orders, or perhaps they were afraid of the magical beasts outside the array barrier. Seeing that there were at least some members who obeyed his orders and stayed behind, Ji Tsang Tian's expression turned slightly gentler. The current Yi Qing Luo's profound chi kept on gushing out as she stepped on the feather fan, releasing a strong airflow, confusing Child Yin's vision. Standing at a close distance on Child Yin's head, Yi Qing Luo finally saw Child Yin's looks clearly. This Child Yin's name wasn't called out randomly. Instead, it was the huge face of this giant illusory beast that clearly outlined the appearance of a child. An enlarged version of a child's looks. It had eyes, a mouth and a nose, with distinct features. A pair of bronze bell-sized eyes, filled with a bloodthirsty baleful aura. This kind of gaze, appearing on this 4 to 5 month old child's face, was extremely strange. Qing Luo, this monster's skin is rough and our attacks don't cause much damage to it. After Qiao Jin shot out a gold coin dart, he raised his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo who was standing on top. This kind of battle of attrition, although the few of them's coordination wouldn't hurt themselves. But in the long run, their profound chi would eventually dry up. If their profound heart jade was unable to supply profound chi in time, they would not be able to maintain their current rhythm. They had already tried it for close to 1 hour and their actions and attacks started to slow down. But Childine was still extremely ferocious as it attacked Long Yunzhan at an extremely fast speed. Perhaps it had spent too much time and Childine was already impatient from their harassment. Its bronze bell-like eyes became increasingly sinister and treacherous. This isn't a solution. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Her peripheral vision shot towards Dmo Xian's direction. She saw Dmo Xian floating in midair as he met that black-cloaked man's palms. Following that, the both of them retreated at the same time and a burst of faintly discernible black chi started to spread out between their palms. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. Profound yin chi. That black-cloaked man was still releasing energy from the dark forces during the battle. The other party was able to use profound yin chi freely. This person's status in the dark forces was absolutely not low. The most important thing now was Dmo Xian affected by the profound yin chi? The worst thing about fighting with someone from the dark forces was that the dark forces would release the mysterious yin chi during the fight. If one's temperament was unstable, they would definitely be affected by the mysterious yin chi. Although she had absolute confidence in Dmo Xian, she still couldn't help but worry. Following that, they saw Dmo Xian retreating a few steps as a ray of resplendent white light enveloped his entire body. The mass of black qi instantly vanished into nothingness. In this ball of white light, Dmo Xian's peerless countenance was like the descent of a deity. "Sister!" There was a panicked cry, and then a small figure rushed over. Yiqing Luo's arm tightened as her body swiftly shifted to the side. Bang! Only to see Child Yin's muscular arm flashing past his eyes. Just a step's distance away and this palm had already landed on Yiqing Luo. If Child Yin were to land a palm on him, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. When he turned his head, he saw a pair of eyes filled with worry. It was Li Mao. "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."